Okay, good afternoon, council members, residents in attendance. We are going to call this meeting to order at 6 o'clock. We're going to start with the invocation led by Councilmember McKenzie, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Roberto. Please rise as you're able.
Please bow your heads. We gather here today to serve the interest of our citizens in our city. We ask for wisdom and guidance in our deliberations and our decisions. We pray for those who are homeless, who feel helpless. We pray protection for those who pledge to protect and serve us. We pray for peace in our country and peace for those who are at war. Thank you for the opportunity to serve. Give us wisdom and guidance in all that we do, decent and in order. Amen.
Please stand as you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, Mr. Johnson, would you please call roll?
Councilwoman Fugit.
Here.
Councilwoman Helsley. Councilwoman McKenzie.
Here.
Councilwoman Parker. Here. Councilwoman Ryder. Here. Councilman Roberto.
Here.
Councilwoman Singh. Vice Mayor Smith. And Councilman Thomas. 8 members present, Mayor.
Okay, thank you. Is there a motion on the minutes from our last meeting?
Second.
Motion made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Are there any items from tonight's agenda to be withdrawn? Any, Councilmember Thomas.
I have one item that is 9I. That was requested by the applicant. That was rezoning on East Inskip Avenue. He also submitted a letter that is in the packet on page 208, but he did request that that item be withdrawn, and on that basis, I'm making that motion.
Okay, motion made to withdraw item 9I has been made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Any other items to be withdrawn? Any items to be postponed? Okay. Are there any items to be added by motion? Is there a motion on consent items? Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion on the consent agenda? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Okay, time now for my mayor's report. I'm a little rusty. I guess we haven't met, haven't had a council meeting in 4 weeks, so it's good to see everybody again. Of course, we saw you last week, thank you, and 700 other people who came out to the State of the City address at Covenant Health Park. I'd like to say that record turnout was due to everybody wanting to hear about the budget, which I'm sure was true for many of them, but I think the draw of the new stadium was part of it as well. So thank council for being there, and also for all that you have done to make Covenant Health Park from a dream into a reality. There's a lot of people excited about the activities that are happening there already, and there's more to come. I had the privilege not just of attending the first baseball game, but Saturday night, maybe some of you were there, was the inaugural soccer game where One Knox soccer fans broke not just the record for the city of Knoxville in soccer attendance, and not just for East Tennessee, but for the whole league. Almost 6,400 fans attended this debut, and that broke the record for the USL League One club. So kudos to One Knox Soccer and to all the fans. I have to say it was a pretty exciting first game, ending in a penalty kick win for our team. So exciting to see. Couple things I wanted to just make sure council members and community members are aware of. This Thursday, we want to invite everyone to our 311 Center for Service Innovation here at the City County Building to celebrate their 20th anniversary. So I guess 2005. I remember when 311 was brand new. I just can't believe it's been 20 years. So in that 20 years, 311 has made nearly 4 million customer contacts and handled 800,000 service requests. At Thursday's open house, you can learn more about our new online bot, RockyBot, which many of you got to see last week at the State of the City, and also meet some of our helpful service representatives and share in some light snacks. So this is Thursday at 11, right here in the City County Building. Hope some of you can make it. And I also want to make sure council members and community members are invited to the Knoxville Police Department is celebrating their latest class of lateral recruits. That'll be this Friday. And this is a small class, but a mighty class of experienced officers who are joining us from other departments. And they will be assigned to patrol duties right away. The graduation will be at 3 p.m. inside the city court at the Public Safety Complex, and everyone is invited. Quick reminder about our rules of decorum. We are here to do the city's official business. Those who wish to speak either to a specific agenda item or during public forum need to sign up with the city recorder before 4 p.m. Do not use profanity, and when speaking to specific agenda items, you must stay on topic. Remarks must be germane to the question ahead of the assembly. That is, statements must have bearing on whether the pending motion should be adopted. Those who fail to adhere to these rules will be ruled out of order. For those who are listening, please note, if you disrupt a public meeting, you will be asked to leave or escorted out. Thank you in advance for everyone's respect for these rules. And that concludes my mayor's report. Are there any reports from council members? Okay. Moving right along, we'll start with item 9. Ordinance is on second reading, please.
9B is an ordinance appropriating the sum of $1,500 from the Community Safety and Empowerment budget and donating same to TKJ Foundation in support of Camp 24, a community football camp and character development event in honor of Xavion Dobson.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
9C is an ordinance appropriating the sum of $1,500 from the Community Safety and Empowerment budget and donating same to Genesee Charitable Birth Services in support of the Genesee Community Baby Shower to provide healthy eating resources and initiatives for youth and young mothers in attendance.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
9D is an ordinance to close an unimproved and unnamed alley off the eastern side of Waverly Street and authorizing the mayor to execute quitclaim deeds to the adjacent property owners.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
9E is an ordinance to adopt the one-year plan dated 2025 as prepared by the Knox County Planning Commission for the City of Knoxville, all districts.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any question? Oh, we have some people speaking, signed up to speak on this item. First is Maria McHale. Ms. McHale, are you present? Oh, there you are. If you could come to the podium, turn on the microphone. It is on, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to address council on this item.
Perfect. Is this on? It is.
Yes.
So thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to address you all. I'm here to applaud the decision that you made to approve the one-year plan on first reading and encourage you to do that again, specifically including the removal of location criteria for duplexes in the city of Knoxville. The East Tennessee Realtors, this is who I represent. We have almost 3,000 realtors in the city of Knoxville, representing both them and the neighborhoods that all of their customers live in. Many of you probably are those customers, so it's very relevant. In approving the plan today, I think the duplex criteria is important because it's supporting all neighborhoods in the city, not just one or two. It is in making sure that our planning is equitable and makes sense for the demographic of our residents. And this is not the first time that I've talked about having a housing crisis in our city and the need to ensure that we're doing everything we can to make that affordable. And I know that you all are doing a lot of work on that currently, the missing middle plan, the amendments that you've made, the housing plan that you released in 2024, and the update to remove the location requirements in the plan aligns with those plans that you released. It aligns with your existing efforts to increase missing middle housing. It aligns with your your plans to make the city more walkable and more accessible to all residents. It aligns with the Vision Zero action plan, specifically a section in there saying that we need to reduce barriers to compact development to help facilitate development patterns that will make pedestrian travel easier and safer and reduce the distance between people's residences and the amenities that they need to access. And the lack of housing inventory in the city is affecting everyone. Missing middle is a big part of that. Rent has begun rising again. As of right now, we're at about a 1.2% increase over March of last year after a couple of years of it being flat. The median purchase price for a single-family home last month was $405,000, which means that you would need to make about $135,000 as a family to be able to afford that home, which is nearly double our median family income here in the city. So that means that housing is out of reach for a lot of people. And what we need most is accessible housing, smaller home prices that make that affordable, and not just what we think of as affordable housing, meaning the lowest level of income, but for our middle-class families, our teachers, our first responders, the people who we want to live close to our homes. And implore you all to remember that today, we're not here to protect one person or one individual or one neighborhood's financial investment. We're here to do what's right for the entire city, and that's moving toward a model where everyone can afford to live, whether they're renting or buying, and that's going to be the best thing for our property values long-term, is making sure that our city is thriving and that our residents have the quality of life that they need. Bike Walk Knoxville could not be here today, but they asked me to remind you that making neighborhoods walkable has specific benefits to public health, safety, and other side benefits, including reducing traffic that our neighbors frequently mention as a concern as we're growing. And lastly, we hear a lot about preserving neighborhood character, I think is the way that everybody likes to phrase that. And it's typically focused on keeping certain types of people out of their neighborhoods or types of housing out of their neighborhood. And I just wanted to remind everyone that the word character is actually defined as the unique traits that make an individual distinct or different. And our neighborhoods, what makes them really special is that they're a collection of all those different people coming together and not being the same. And so we should be creating neighborhoods that serve our city's broader mix of residents, which is pretty diverse. And approving the one-year plan without the duplex location requirements would be a great first step toward that. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. Next person signed up to speak on this item is Drew Harper. If you could start by stating your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you. I'm Drew Harper. I live at 4318 Washington Pike, number 101. I am Vice President of Yes Knoxville. We spoke on this matter at Planning Commission and also on the first reading. I'd like to reiterate our strong support for the adoption of the updated one-year plan that would ease regulatory burdens in some parts of the city that mandate only single-family detached homes can be built. This allows more flexibility in land use, gives more agency to property owners, more housing options for current and future Knoxville residents, encourages infill home building on empty lots, and discourages sprawling development into our rural areas. This plan is a small, smart, and necessary step to help address our housing shortage. It doesn't upend our neighborhoods, it just gives more Knoxville families a chance to live in them. I know that a concern that has been raised and might be raised still is the idea of design, the idea that we can't make progress on this without strict aesthetic standards. The urgent problem that we're facing is not one about roof lines or window placement. It's about people being priced out of our city, decades of underbuilding, a lack of housing options, and seniors struggling to downsize. Any duplex in the new amended one-year plan would follow the existing zoning rules that we already have that shape how buildings fit into a neighborhood, height limits, setbacks, lot coverage. They would be subject to all these regulations, increasing structural barriers to home building. Increasing the structural barriers to home building is the opposite of what is needed to address our housing shortage. Every building that we love today, whether that's Oakwood Lincoln Park Craftsman's, Holston Hills Mid-Century Ranches, Richmond Orchard Tiny Cottages, all once looked out of place. We cherish these buildings now not because they were regulated into beauty, but because people were allowed to build homes in a way that met their needs. Character came from flexibility and diversity over time, not regulation or fear. This very city-county building, the Sun Sphere, they all had loud detractors when they were built, but the interplay of different architectural styles, building materials, typologies, even designs we may not personally love, all of these weave together over time to build this city that we do love. And I can't imagine this city without the Sun Sphere or this beautiful building we're standing in. The truth is, aesthetic preferences, while well-intended, indirectly serve to stifle home building. They sound reasonable, but in practice become weapons to prevent change. This proposed one-year plan is a modest but meaningful step towards solving a real problem. Incremental change might not solve our housing crisis, but just because there is no silver bullet does not mean we shouldn't try for incremental progress. So once again, for health, for climate, for affordability, for welcoming new neighbors, for balanced budgets, and for increased property rights, for aesthetic diversity, and for the hard work of incremental change, I encourage council to say yes. Thank you.
Thank you. We have one person signed up to speak in opposition to this item, Mr. Leland Hume. Are you present, Mr. Lee Hume? If you could step up to the podium, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to address council.
Good evening. My name is Lee Hume. I'm president of the West Hills Community Association. I live at 6902 Haverhill Drive, Knoxville, Tennessee. I want to start by saying that I made a great personal sacrifice to come tonight. I'm missing my grandson's baseball game, and would much rather be there than being here tonight, but I feel compelled to be here tonight to speak in opposition to one part of what is in front of you tonight. As far as the one-year plan, that's fine. I have no issue with that. I have no issue, too, either with the design standards for duplexes. My concern is with the dropping the location standards for duplexes, whether they be a new duplex or conversion of a home into a duplex. My concern is that you're going to be taking property away that could become single-family owner-owned houses. In the future could be affecting neighborhoods where maybe you have older people that may be moving out and families out of town. They put the house on the market and somebody wants to see an opportunity to create a duplex and an income resource rather than a family buying that property and being able to make it a home. Another concern I have too, and our neighborhood also has, is that it's removing an opportunity for individuals and families to create wealth and enrich their lives rather than a landlord or corporation that really looks at that property simply as a commodity and as an investment. It's a rather complicated thing for us to understand, why this needs to be done now, and I don't see any reason why it couldn't be done at a later date. There's no reason, there's nothing compelling in the charter that would prohibit this being postponed for a later date and being discussed in further, and also involving the community. One of the things I've discovered over the past several weeks now, since this topic came to our attention, is many people around Knoxville, not just in my community in West Hills, but also around Knoxville, as I've talked to them, aren't even aware that this is being considered. It will impact neighborhoods across the city. And having grown up outside of Nashville and seeing what's happened in Nashville and growth there has really choked off the city and changed the character of that city. And it's not really a desirable place to live. I simply ask that each of you consider the long-term implications of what is being considered tonight and how that may long-term impact Knoxville, not only as far as housing opportunities, but opportunities for individuals and families to build a strong community and something that everybody enjoys and a high quality of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Council, that concludes people who have signed up to speak. Director Brooks is here if you have any questions. Councilmember Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. At our last meeting, there was a bit of discussion about design standards and an amendment made to address some of those concerns. But the concerns that I raised were more along the lines of scale. And my concern is with the new housing stock that we're seeing developed, they're not necessarily, even though it's a duplex, they're not always necessarily a smaller square footage or a smaller footprint. And they're certainly not always at that more affordable price point. And so my concern is if, and I did reach out to planning to see, as we, consider this amendment to the one-year plan, can we have the same standards that we're applying to duplexes within missing middle apply citywide? If we're going to allow by special use duplexes citywide, can we have the same somewhat standards in place so that neighborhoods have certain expectations? And that was going to be a little bit too hard to do. Missing Middle has a set of certain standards. All of the other neighborhoods have their own various standards, design standards that they're following. And so for me, this became a rushed process that would not allow me to explain to a neighborhood what to expect following this process. And I don't know if it's the best next step, because we're talking about, when we were talking about missing middle, we were talking about a certain grid of properties, somewhat, many of which had that 50-foot width, 100-foot, 150-foot property size. Now we're talking about other areas of town where we have all kinds of different lot sizes. Those areas, while we're allowing duplexes, may make more sense for recovery houses and, multifamily spaces that allow for more than just 2 duplexes. What I'm concerned about is that we're not really talking about the full strategic use of our land that we need to be discussing, and that would come about in a more comprehensive process. And so, the vote last time was 8-1. Me changing my vote is just 1 vote, so I know that this will move forward, but I encourage us, to commit to that planning process, because the public, deserves to understand what changes are being made and to have a voice in that process, but also so that we can think more comprehensively about how to best use our land for development. And, getting a win around duplexes seems great, but that's not adding much housing stock to our city when we're now talking about much larger pieces of property that could accommodate more than a duplex. And I think that there are other strategies. One strategy I keep hearing about from developers here is something they tell me that Chattanooga's doing. I haven't looked into it, but this idea of giving density bonuses. So if we want to increase density, some cities allow developers to build more units on a site, but only if they include a certain percentage of affordable units. So that's one way that we can increase density, but also ensure some affordability. I also, support us talking about smaller lot sizes, so that when we are talking about these duplexes, we can create a situation where that land can be divided and individuals are able to now have access maybe to workforce housing or startup housing. But I want a more comprehensive process. This doesn't feel like we're getting at what we need to get at.
Thank you. Councilmember Fugit.
Thank you, Mayor. I don't intend to support this with the amendment again. I agree we need middle housing. I agreed with that process. It had been talked about for quite a while. The neighborhoods involved knew it was coming. I too feel that this just made its way through the Planning Commission, and there are lots of people that don't know this is happening. It is not our land, it is the homeowner's land. It's private property, and when their property gets rezoned or new things are allowed, that matters to people that live in a neighborhood. I don't think that people who want their neighborhood not to change for certain reasons are all bad people or have bad reasons, and it often gets talked about that way. But more importantly, I think people want to understand what's happening. The design standards are important. Many of the things that are happening, we keep talking about Nashville, are tall skinnies that don't fit into a neighborhood. So I think people's angst about what might happen in their neighborhood is not all from a negative space. It's that it is a surprise and they didn't really know this was coming. So I'm for the one-year plan. If we remove the amendment, I would vote for the one-year plan. With this amendment in there about the duplex change without more community conversation, just went through Planning Commission and came to us, I just don't feel like I can support it because it is a drastic change to neighborhoods. When we talked about missing middle, that was not that long ago, and we said it would just be to a certain part of the community, and that we would think about that longer before we made the change. I feel confident this will pass on second reading. I just feel compelled to speak to the concerns that I'm hearing from people, which are not all unfounded.
Councilmember Roberto.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to address, there's been some discussion about the missing middle, and what I want to make sure is that people aren't confused about what's being discussed. The missing middle was specifically tailored for within the TDR, which is kind of Central City, where there's infrastructure to support missing middle. It's not outside of that area. The design standards within the missing middle are appropriate for that area because of the infrastructure that's there. They're not appropriate outside of that area because there's not the infrastructure to support that kind of development. What is being talked about here with regard to the changes in the one-year plan is that already you can have duplexes in RN1 and RN2 after special use where they were on the outskirts of neighborhoods. That's what the location standards did. This change makes it so you can have duplexes on the interior of neighborhoods as well. The change that council took advantage of or adopted in the amendment last time was to make sure there's design standards for conversions. When you're looking at what we had prior to this, or what we still have prior to this, is that there are design standards for new construction of duplexes, but there's not design standards for conversions. And if you're talking about expanding the areas where you can have duplexes into the interior of communities that are already there, you're going to be talking about most likely conversions. So I don't agree with not having design standards when you are doing conversions, because that's how you make sure that things are fitting with the existing neighborhood. Now, let's not talk about having onerous design standards. That's not what this is. These are the same design standards that are for new construction currently. And what are we talking about? We're talking about the primary interests facing the street. We're talking about windows and porches and entrances facing the street. We're talking about having 15% minimum transparency, that's windows. We're talking about the size of garages. Those are the kinds of things we're talking about, not onerous requirements, but things that make the duplex look like the homes next to it and not be rear-facing. And so that's what we're talking about. We're not talking about design standards that are so difficult that no one's going to be able to build anything. I think this is important for us to do so long as we have the design standards. So I can support this as long as we keep the design standards that we've got in there. And I see that on, I think May 8th, it's on the agenda for the design standards we talked about with the changes to 9.3J. But Director Brooks, I did get a question last night at a neighborhood meeting, and you and I have already talked about it, so I know, but I wanted to make sure that we discussed it. The question was to confirm that in RN1, duplexes and single-family homes both have to meet the same setbacks. And could you kind of just discuss that with us and let us know what we're looking at with both single-family homes and duplexes?
Yes, Councilmember, that's correct. Table 4.42 in the code identifies front, rear, side, interior side setbacks, and those apply both to single-family and two-family homes in the RN1 and RN2. Okay. The same.
Thank you. As long as we keep the design standards, I can support this, so that's where I am. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to address that so much of this conversation seems to be saying that people will be losing something and that there's a loss or a risk involved. Whereas what we're doing is we're actually giving property rights back to property owners. A lot of the conversations here are not about what do I want to do with my home or my land, but what will I let my neighbors do with their land or their home choices. So to me, for government to step a couple steps back from that, I'm in favor of allowing people to do what they want to with their property within reason, as long as there are safety issues, environmental issues. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Ryder?
Yeah, Ms. Brooks, so first off, to clarify, the last time on first reading, it's been a month, so we're all a little foggy after skipping a meeting for the first time in my 7 years on council. So got to get my brain in gear. Okay, Christmas, but we didn't have Christmas. Councilman Roberto, at the last meeting when we passed this on first reading, there was an amendment that made the removal of the location criteria contingent upon passing the design standards. Is that correct? And that is what we are voting now, is the amended version for second reading.
My memory's a little fuzzy as well about that. If you all actually, and I looked at in our notes, I can't speak to that. I don't know if Mr. Johnson can
We are voting
clarify.
on an amended version that includes an amendment that Councilmember Roberto made last time. Is that correct?
You amended Section 4 of the ordinance with respect to the effective date.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to be clear so we're all on the same page. Contingent upon the design standards, so we have Councilmember Roberto's amendment, and so just for everyone's memory, my own, and the world around, we are voting on that, including that contingency. And so, Councilmember Roberto, you were saying that that is slated to be discussed or on an agenda May 8th. Is that what I understood you to say?
Yeah, it's on the Planning Commission's.
Planning Commission, May 8th. Okay.
May 8th meeting, yes.
All right, I appreciate it. So, Ms. Brooks, right now, if someone were to apply to build a duplex or to apply to have a duplex, well, first off, how frequently does that happen?
It's, well, again, so some of them come through our office and some of them go if they're by right. So in RN1, we'll talk about just specifically RN1 and RN2.
Okay.
So over the last 5 years, we have had 55 special use cases, so approximately anywhere from 10 to 11 per year.
Okay. So when someone makes an application to do, because they want to apply to have a duplex in an RN1 or an RN2 zone, low-density residential, the first step is, well, you've got to apply for a special use, correct? It's not a use by right, it's a use by review process, and it goes to a public meeting.
Correct.
Okay. Are there times where you say, no, we wouldn't approve this, so it doesn't ever end up making the agenda for the planning commission anyway for the special use review?
Yes, I don't have the exact numbers, but there are often conversations that we have with applicants, and they decide not to apply.
And that is revolving around
It could be a
lot
vari-
dimensions, location?
Location, maybe they don't have the adequate lot size. It could be location. Could be a number of different factors.
So not all lots can have a duplex. There's a lot size,
That's correct.
lot coverage, impervious, and there's setbacks, and there's special use.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So the reason for asking to remove the location criteria is that it's this entire list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I see 8 things in here, correct? The proposed site is located on a collector street. Oh, session expired. It just kicked me out, so I can't read them to you. That's the correct list, right?
That's correct.
Collector streets, buffers, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. All right. I thank you for the clarity.
Okay, Councilmember Thomas.
Yes. This is the second reading. I voted for it on the first reading, but we have second readings for a reason. And I've reflected on it since then, taking into consideration actually some of Councilperson Fugit's comments at the last reading. I can't support this going forward with the amendment in it for several reasons. People are moving to Knoxville because Knoxville is a really good place to live. They're not moving here because of what Knoxville is going to be. One of the reasons they're moving here is decisions that we have made in the past that have to do with zonings in neighborhoods and reasonable land use. As we start decimating that, we are slowly going to turn Knoxville into the type of city that people are fleeing from to get here. There's a housing shortage, but that shouldn't be an excuse to start destroying community as people are trying to hold on to a sense of community, which is very much lacking in the United States. If greater density inside the neighborhood was the only option we had, I would be for it. But the fact is, it's not the only option we have. There's blighted property, there's space along the corridors that need to be developed, and to continue to shoehorn into neighborhoods and with the fallacy that this is going to be significant enough to stop our housing shortage is short-sighted. And people who are pursuing that as the solution, frankly, have tunnel vision. We need to be thinking of a paradigm shift on how we grow, and we can be creative, reach out to developers, reach out to property owners, ask them why they're not developing on these particular places. It would strengthen our tax base. It would be a better place for the people to live because the infrastructure would be there to support it. So I can't support this. It's not the only option. And if we pursued other options, we might become the city that other places use as a model instead of copying what other cities are doing, you know? And so, you know, we can turn this into Minneapolis or Raleigh-Durham or Austin or whatever. But I know people from those cities that are moving here to get away from those cities. So, you know, I can't support this, and I'll continue to keep advocating for a different way of growth. Thank you.
Councilmember Parker?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to clarify a little bit on the design standards, because there was a point brought up about the amendment that's included in here. Even in talking with some professionals in this industry about the impact of these design standards, it gave me pause, because when we think about conversions of single-family homes, and we think about that conversion, once completed, being harmonious with the neighborhood, it might not make most sense for the entry to be facing the street. You know, there are some restrictions that we're putting in there that might make it more difficult for that conversion to meld more easily with the community. And so I started thinking about that, and so I wanted to clarify. So the design standards that are a part of this amendment, they come from our principal use standards. But the design standards I'm talking about are in the missing middle housing section, and it's the dimensional standards that are only included in the missing middle housing design standards. And so those aren't included in the principal use standards, and that's why I was changing my vote, because that issue of scale, I believe, is really important. And also just like what was said, making sure we understand our comprehensive approach to land use, and we're not getting ahead of ourselves too quickly, because I think that there are other strategies that we could be pursuing much more aggressively and be able to get to actual affordable housing. I'm really worried about this strategy of simply increasing density so that one day that housing stock brings the prices down. I continue to stress that if we're not intentional, even more so than we have been, about increasing the affordable housing stock, and it has to, you know, for the extremely low income, we've got to do more than First Creek at Austin and Western Heights. We've been talking about those projects since the O'Hara administration. We've got to be adding new units to that housing stock. We've got to be adding new units to folks making 30% and below. We're still focusing on that 80% and 60% range. So that's what I keep pushing for. We need that absolutely affordable housing. We absolutely need it all throughout our city. But I think we can do a better job with planning when it comes to land use and with implementing policies that will result in actual affordable housing, not some affordable housing that may come one day once we get to a certain level of housing stock.
Councilmember Ryder?
Yeah. So I'm just going to say I am still going to support this, just like I did last time. I appreciate hearing many of the comments from my colleagues. And I've received many emails from one neighborhood that has apprehension about this. All of the emails that I've received in opposition, I'm not trying to be disparaging, I'm just saying they're from one particular neighborhood. And I agree with Councilwoman Singh that this just gives more rights to some property owners, and this is really, truly going to be about vacant land. So when we say that we can only solve our housing crisis by building only on corridors and only collector streets, first off, I don't think this change is going to bring rampant wildfire change. I think it's going to be modest at best. There just aren't that many empty lots left in the city. There just aren't. We're very built up, and that's why there is constant, continual development of farmland and open space and green space in the county. And that is what creates our traffic and puts people further and further and further away from the jobs in the city center. I I will say, in disclosure, and I've said it before, I own a duplex. My tenants are very nice people. I think I'm a reasonable person. I have a nurse on one side. There's a city staffer that works for the city that used to live in that same side. Some very decent people have lived there. They just weren't at that moment ready to buy a home. If any one of them wanted to potentially buy a duplex, they could certainly, someone can, and many people do, live in dwellings that are duplexes. So they're not just occupied by renters. I just think that's an important statement. But what this amendment does is it opens up the possibility of lots that, right now, the lots are limited to only those on corridors, and it opens up to make it feasible for other lots to go through the special use process. And I think that's what's really important to take note of, is that there is still a special use review step that has to happen. And there are still lot size and lot coverage restrictions and many other things that have to happen, and off-street parking. There are a plethora of things. And we can add many different housing types, and we have several, I think we have 3 things that address lower income housing later on in the agenda. So I'm willing to support this. I appreciate the amendment from Councilman Roberto, and thank you.
Councilmember Singh?
Thank you, Mayor. I do think Councilwoman Ryder makes a good point. Nothing is going to be moving like fire through. There's still the special use. There's still many neighborhoods, not just the ones that have been contacting us, that have been concerned. We as a council, we keep talking about doing something comprehensive, but that's not how things are coming to us. They're coming to us piecemeal. There have been so many times that we've had one duplex that we've looked at and asked to approve or not, and the response is, well, that one duplex isn't going to solve the housing problem. Well, how many times have we said no? Sure, the corridors are good. Sure, 30% AMI is very, very necessary. But we're not going to get all of that on this one vote. But we do need to move towards housing and increasing the stock, at least step by step. And it's not going to be perfect for every solution for each person needing housing, but each step brings us a little bit closer. And I keep going back to, if anybody was at eviction court this morning, there are about, I think it's 200 families a week that are going out onto the street. They're not looking at single-family homes as that's this family's investment because they worked hard and I didn't, so I don't deserve a home. They're looking at that they're being priced out of the market. Yes, a lot of people want to move here. I also hear a lot of people don't want to come downtown anymore. They don't want to deal with the homeless folks. They don't feel safe. They don't feel comfortable. So when I picture a Knoxville in the future without us making any growth, what I picture is more homeless in all of our neighborhoods. And to me, that just doesn't seem like, it's not humane, and it definitely changes the character of the neighborhood. Thanks.
Councilmember Thomas?
I'll just add that from what I'm hearing from a couple of my colleagues, you're talking about how slow this is going to go, and it's going to be really incremental. And then we talk about the housing shortage and how we need to move on it. You're kind of making my point. Changing the character in these neighborhoods is going to be very small. It's not going to be significant. It's going to change the character of the neighborhoods, but it's not going to keep people from eviction court. A lot of these duplexes, they aren't going to be affordable to the people that you're concerned about, you know? And so we just need to double down on another approach. The approach of shoehorning into neighborhoods is not going to significantly help us. We need to think a lot bigger.
Councilmember Ryder?
So, Councilman Thomas, I don't mean to make it personal, but are you saying the duplex I own is shoehorned into my single-family neighborhood and has decimated and made people flee? I mean, it's just inflammatory, and I mean,
I have no idea.
You know, I think we need to do incremental things and we need to do large-scale things, and those are all on the agenda tonight. So,
Councilmember Thomas?
I have no idea where your duplex is. I have no idea why you took that offense. It had nothing to do with any property, that you own, So if you took it that way, I think it was unjustified because it had nothing to do with you.
Okay, Councilmember Singh.
Just want one statement and then maybe call the question. Housing is personal. This is personal. That's all.
Okay, seeing no more lights on, I think we need a roll call vote. All those in favor, oh no, you're doing the roll call, sorry.
Councilwoman Singh. Councilman Thomas. Councilwoman Fugit. Councilwoman Helsley. Councilwoman McKenzie. Councilwoman Parker. Councilwoman Ryder.
yes.
And Councilman Roberto. Yes. Mayor, the vote is 4 in favor, 4 opposed.
Okay, I have the opportunity to break a tie vote, correct?
Yes, ma'am.
I vote yes. The motion is passed. Okay, next item, please.
9F is an ordinance to amend the Knoxville City Code Appendix B zoning code, Article 5.3, Table 5-1, Commercial and Office Districts Dimensional Standards, to amend minimum interior side, corner side, and rear setbacks in the CN zoning district, R. Bentley Marlowe applicant, all districts.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
9G is an ordinance approving the request of Daniel Levy for a South City Sector Plan Amendment from Low-Density Residential Mixed-Use Special District, potential addition to the South Waterfront District to South Waterfront Mixed-Use District Type 2 for a property located at 2201, 2209, 2215 Ashley Street, and 0 Carmichael Street, leaving any special purpose land use classifications unchanged. First District.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
9H is an ordinance to change the base zoning classification of property located at 2201, 2209, 2215 Ashley Street, and 0 Carmichael Street from IG to IMU district, leaving all special purpose and overlay districts unchanged. Daniel Levy, applicant, First District.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
11K is a resolution of the Council of the City of Knoxville recognizing April 27 through May 3rd, 2025 as National Youth Violence Prevention Week in the City of Knoxville.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, we have 2 members of the Mayor's Youth Council here today to speak in favor of this. So we'll start with Anjali Devarankanda. If you could come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and we appreciate your work on the council and for being here today. You'll have up to 5 minutes to address council.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor Kincannon, council members, and everyone here today. My name is Anjali Devarakonda. I'm a student at Farragut High School, and I'm here with the Mayor's Youth Council to speak before you in support of the resolution declaring April 27th to May 3rd, 2025 as National Youth Violence Prevention Week in Knoxville. Youth violence is not a single kind of injury. It comes in many forms. Bullying, dating violence, gang activity, gun violence, substance abuse, and it's affecting more and more young people right here in Tennessee. In 2022 alone, over 30,000 minors were crime involved across the state. Moreover, Tennessee ranks 3rd highest nationally in opioid abuse, impacting numerous families and young people, while creating an environment for violence to grow. Gang violence is also a significant concern because most gangs in Tennessee consist of young people between the ages of 13 to 24, and most become involved around 17 or 18 years old. Without early intervention, too many young people get pulled into cycles of violence that they cannot get out of. Closer to home, in Knox County, there were nearly 400 reported sexual assaults in 1 year alone. Gun violence is also prevalent, with Tennessee's child firearm death rate measuring as 36% higher than the national average, and has been the leading cause of death for children and teens ages 1 to 17 years old since 2022. Violence not only leaves physical scars, it affects mental health, education, and decision-making. If we don't intervene, those challenges can stay with young people long into adulthood. Observing National Youth Violence Prevention Week gives us the chance to raise awareness, highlight the resources that exist to support our young people, and keep working towards safer schools, neighborhoods, and futures. I respectfully encourage your support for this resolution. Thank you.
Thank you. Next person signed up to speak is also a member of the Mayor's Youth Council, Tasneem Abdullahi. Please come to the podium and state your name and address for the record. You'll have up to 5 minutes.
Good evening. My name is Tasneem Abdullahi. I am a junior and I live at 37923. I am a member of the Mayor's Youth Council as well. And today I wanted to discuss the importance of National Youth Violence Prevention Week. The majority of students here in Knoxville have all experienced lockdowns. One of my most vivid memories in elementary was practicing those drills. We were first told to grab an item from our desk, and when the alarm went off, she specifically suggested for us to grab scissors from our desks and get ready to throw them at the intruder, if that happened. In that moment in elementary school, I felt so empowered, and I felt so safe with the idea that I'd be under my desk and no one would be hurt, and the intruder would run screaming from us. But later, I realized that despite practicing lockdown drills, there was no guarantee for my safety, especially if the intruder knew about those drills and what our teacher had taught us. And in a game of rock, paper, scissors, gun beats all. Moreover, the first time I experienced a lockdown, it was chilling. It was pure fear and confusion, and I had no idea what was going to happen if an intruder was to walk through my door, and suddenly I'd be the only one left. School should be a place where students don't have to fear for their lives. In an ideal world, this should be true. But in light of threats to schools, some days students fear for their lives so much that they don't come to school. School is the greatest investment in the future, and if students can't focus on school, what future does this foretell for us? Also, youth violence is a term that holds a lot of situations under its umbrella. I'd like to talk specifically about bullying. The amount of education and training around bullying is enormous, and it's done so much to prevent it at schools. It even helps prevent bystanders and has changed attitudes. It has denormalized bullying. This same thing needs to happen with gun violence, dating violence, drug-related violence, and domestic violence related to young people today. The opportunity to start to prevent these forms of violence is presented clearly in National Youth Violence Prevention Week. Creating conversations between students, teachers, and officials, and creating communities and networks that make people feel that they are understood and cared about. This is invaluable. If we can start to change how everybody handles youth violence in a healthy way, we'd be leaving a better world for everyone. And I will admit there is no easy fix to youth violence. There's no way we can flip the switch and make that change. But National Youth Violence Prevention Week is a step toward prevention. And by preventing youth violence, more young people can start to live in confidence and safety once more. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Anjali and Tasneem. Council, that concludes people signed up to speak to this item. Just as a point of information, we We do have a full calendar of events for this week, and you can see those events and hopefully encourage community members to attend on our website, knoxvilletn.gov/community safety. Any other questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Would all members of the Mayor's Youth Council who are here today please raise your hand? Thank you. Thank you for your service. Appreciate it. Okay, next item.
11L is a resolution authorizing the mayor to extend the contract with the National Institute of Criminal Justice Reform to manage implementation of community violence intervention programming, provide technical assistance to the City of Knoxville, and provide training on group violence reduction strategies for the City of Knoxville and community partners for an amount not to exceed $519,750 for a total contract amount not to exceed $826,800.
Okay, council members, we have some people signed up to speak to this. First is Denzel Grant, starting with those signed up to speak in favor. Mr. Grant, please come to the podium. By the way, the podium does have a height adjustment if people need to raise it or lower it. It's the controls under the surface to the speaker's right if you want to raise it up. Oh, that's as high as it goes, sorry. Okay, go ahead, sorry.
Denzel Grant, Knoxville, Tennessee. Good evening, council members, Mayor Kincannon. First, I want to start by expressing my gratitude to the city of Knoxville, more so for honoring your commitment to the work that we've been able to do. First, by clearing our name and restoring credibility in the public's eye by backpaying us for the vital work that we have done in previous years. As we all know, the city was able to see a 33% reduction rate in the first year, 45% reduction rate in non-fatal shootings last year, along with the lowest percentage in Black and brown homicides we've seen in over a decade. Despite the gaps in our contracts, and even after the termination of the most recent contracts, we never stopped the work. Just yesterday, I spent 3 hours at UT Medical Center with a mother whose son had been shot. I sat with her, I talked with her, I prayed with her, and I stood by her side as she faced something that was unimaginable for her child. I was able to call Brian Daly, director of UT Trauma Division, who was a tremendous help yesterday, and so I definitely want to take this time to publicly acknowledge him for stepping up. This is just an example of what the work looks like. Now, while we're grateful for the support and training NICJR has provided, their contribution has helped shape and strengthen the foundation of violence intervention in Knoxville. But with that said, I come before you with a deep concern about the direction of this resolution. When Turn Up Knox began, we were the only violence interruption organization in the city. Today, as you take a look in the crowd, that is no longer the case. We welcome that growth, we always have. More importantly, there are grassroots organizations throughout Knoxville doing work that is just as critical. They may not respond to violence, but in certain ways, they are definitely helping prevent it. They're creating safe spaces, mentoring our youth, and offering opportunities to keep the young people from ever needing our services. This work matters. It also plays a role. City Council, the power is now back in your hands. I encourage you to vote no on this resolution. You have the opportunity not to end the work, but to strengthen it, to keep the approach rooted in the city, one driven by the people living and working within the city. I urge each of you to involve yourselves in this process, involve myself, involve local leaders, grassroots organizations, and create a real collaborative effort that's community rooted. We have a chance to do it better this time. This will make us a lot better. This will create more unity, starting with unifying all of us here tonight. It will ensure resources are provided by the city or used effectively with the people they are meant to serve. Again, I urge each of you to vote no. Right now, the room is divided. And when it comes to saving lives, it should not be. Voting no will be the first step in bringing more of us to the table, Let us not move forward, but let's move forward together. Thank you.
Thank you. Council members, I apologize. That was we'll start now with the affirmative people who signed up to speak in favor. First is Candace Allen. Ms. Allen.
Good evening. My name is Candace Allen. Address is 1515 St. Mary's Street, 37917. I appreciate the opportunity to talk to you all this evening in support of the extension of the contract for NICJR. I'd like to first start off by saying that my work with the McNabb Center, when this violence reduction initiative started with the city several years ago, we were right there wanting to join in and be a part of this along with several other agencies and departments, primarily because of the objectives and the goals. So I was at the table for that intensive first week training. And since that time, have attended management meetings weekly for almost 2 years. I'm still a part of that management team. I also serve on the notification committee, of the meetings there as well. So I give this background because I think during this time, I have been provided training by NICJR, have also been in several meetings where they were interacting with us, whether it was either in the management trainings or some other meetings. And I have always been impressed with their expertise, their knowledge. They're a national organization that has a good reputation for this kind of work. So I think when we narrow down to the focus of the gun violence reduction strategies, they have been in over 10 cities across the United States with very positive outcomes and data to support, I think, their knowledge and what they do. So with that said, I think with the extension of the contract, I think, the outreach, life coaching component of the violence reduction initiative is imperative. To me, it's almost the glue that holds a lot of it together, and it is so important. And so with that said, I think that they are positioned to lead and give some direction, management, in overseeing and making recommendations of the outreach team moving forward. So that is the reason for my support of this, is that's their oversight, their expertise in these areas. And I appreciate the opportunity to talk with you all this evening. Thank you.
Thank you. The second person here to speak in favor of this is Denise Jackson. Ms. Jackson, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record.
Good evening. I'm Denise Jackson, and I live at 1421 Knightsbridge Drive. I'm a volunteer mediator and trainer with the Community Mediation Center, and I became involved with the violence reduction work in the city's Office of Community Safety and Empowerment a couple of years ago, when the Community Mediation Center had a grant from the National Association for Community Mediation to simply reimagine what community safety looked like. But I am not speaking for the Community Mediation Center now, but from my own experience in working with the city and several community organizations to reduce violence and violent deaths. This work requires a 360-degree approach to fight violence. The street outreach workers have actively worked to mediate conflicts and prevent retaliatory violence between those who are at risk to commit or to become the victims of gun violence. Their efforts, as well as the city's, has seen significant progress. However, moving forward, I think it is important that we recognize the level of preparedness, and the degree of their personal investment. These have been people with boots on the ground who are known by the community and respected. But NICJR has a track record in recording success with various groups, and they can provide the needed training for local organizations whose personal investment is seen by the community and people who are also respected and trusted by the community. So whatever changes in personnel there may have been over the years, I have not seen the city's commitment to a safer Knoxville dwindle, nor in terms of budget, nor in effort. So I am speaking in support of this proposal to bring in NICJR, with whom the city already has a working relationship. I have been in sessions where they have spoken and shared and trained. And these are people who have experience and can keep the wheel moving. Starting over in the summer with someone new may create a lapse at a time when the momentum should indeed be ramped up. So building on this ongoing relationship, I think would enable local groups who receive funding to get sufficient training and guidance to work alongside with NICJR so that they have the training and direction that they need to help them in building capacity and to deliver better results, and most importantly, to sustain those results. So I do stand in favor of this proposal. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, the third person signed up to speak in favor is Matt McGrons-Tillery. Mr. McGrons-Tillery, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mayor, City Council. My name is Matt McGrons-Tillery. I am at 2018 Western Avenue in Knoxville. I'm also here speaking in support of this resolution. I proudly am able to sit on the mayor's leadership for violence reduction team meetings, as well as some of the work group meetings that have gone on over the past couple of years. I wasn't involved in it on the inception of this group, but very happily involved in it now. One of the major changes that I have seen since this, the initiation with NICJR is hiring. We have several different clinics. We have Cherokee Health Systems. We operate both primary medical care centers, mental health care centers, and we do optometry, dentistry, pharmacy. We are a one-stop shop for anyone coming into our facilities, and we intend to be that way for our persons who are in need. One of the things that we want to make sure of that we are there for our folks is if they're in crisis. That crisis has kind of changed our definition of that. It's not just someone who may have suicidal ideation. It may be someone who has homicidal ideation. And we want to make sure that we are able to interact and disrupt those types of thoughts when someone comes to us. The hiring that we've been able to do has been immensely different, and we've actually been able to recruit in certain areas within Knoxville that the mayor and city council has invested intentionally with making sure that these locations within and amongst our city are looked at and layered over in a way that is intentional and in a way that is improved. One of the major critical reasons, or I guess that one of the more critical things that we have to make sure that we're doing is acting quickly. And that is a reciprocal referral stream. When we get a referral from someone, from Ms. Middlebrook's office, when we get a referral from someone, we have to act quickly because that may be a life that in a window that's not going to be open tomorrow. They need to make sure that they know that we are there. perceived improvement in the community from my staff at our East Knox Clinic inside the Dr. Hardy building has improved immensely over the last 2 years. It was really difficult to make hires out there, and even making sure that we were recruiting outside of our city to bring talent into and protect and have medical providers and behavioral health providers seeing patients within our own communities. This is not the same day that it was 2 years ago. Now we have people coming in and saying, hey, I heard about your East Knox Clinic. How do I get involved? There are things happening in the East Knox community. What about some of the green spaces? There are things happening with this. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And City Council, you all have done a major job in transitioning our city. One of the things is making sure that our folks feel safe, and that perception of security matters absolutely. I'm certainly speaking in support of this resolution so that the work can continue and further lives can be saved. I've been really impressed with NICJR's intention to the detail. They are making intentional change, not just reactive change. And I think that has been one of the major keys for the success for some of the lives being saved, is this is not just a reactionary response to certain situations. Of course, in that reactionary time, that's occurring. But the intention and the planning behind that, the development and the management that NICJR and the training for folks like me and my staff who have felt like they have all the behavioral health training that they need until this certain situation happens. And we are able to move forward. So again, I am speaking in support and hope you all do too. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next person signed up to speak in opposition is Vivian Shipe. Ms. Shipe, if you could come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes.
Vivian Shipe, 503 Longview Road, Knoxville, 37919. There's an old song that says, California knows how to party. But that's California. California is not Knoxville, Tennessee. The culture and lifestyles are very different. As we say in the South, they ain't from around here. These are my initial reactions to the National Institute for Crime Reform proposal that will spend $360,000 on personnel and a paltry $35,000 on incentives for participants. Looking at all the endless so-called training and meetings and discussions, I don't see any benefit to anyone but those who are hired as administration. This is a whole new level of top-heavy, and it's only a 12-month plan. There is no need to reinvent the wheel. Our numbers in violence and fatalities are down. Why do we need to go back to the drawing board and spend a year training people to do what is already being done here? The young people who will see this will know from the dollars allotted that this isn't about them. Where you spend your treasure shows your priority, and it's obvious to anyone who can read that this is not about the youth. What do you think the youth's reaction will be? They are not stupid. We already have community violence prevention organizations in the fields doing the work, and the numbers show the success. That data has already been reported in past reports to you. It is not easy gaining and keeping trust of this generation. Yet those in the field have been doing it successfully. If you don't like how the paperwork is being handled, put the funds under a fiscal agent who can give you the required documents needed and supply the data desired. Let those here in Knoxville manage the funds, and let the boots on the ground keep doing the work. $519,000 to start over and then try to train new trusted messengers is not a good plan. Good leaders surround themselves with people who have more knowledge than they do in certain areas. They may not like them because they may not be yes men, or they may not scratch the itching ear, but they are successful at the end of the day and bring the results needed. Here's another proposal to counter this one. Appoint a local fiscal agent for these dollars and split the funds between organizations in the field that are already doing the work, like Renounce, Denounce, and Turn Up Knox, and Lawrence Williams. These organizations are effective in these streets. You don't need to write a check on June 1st of 2025 to anyone else.
Okay, last person signed up to speak in opposition is Rashad Woods. Mr. Woods, you can come to the podium and state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes to address council.
Rashad Woods, 37917. I would like to express my concerns regarding Resolution 11L. After reviewing it last night, I was confused about its intent and potential impact. It appears that the resolution is asking NSCJR to come to Knoxville and establish an organization that would essentially replicate existing efforts within our community. The city of Knoxville is allocating over $500,000 to NICJR to develop a program with 5 employees focused on outreach services and related activities. However, this funding does not seem to support or build upon the existing organizations or initiatives already doing similar work in our community. While it may be argued that local organizations lack the capacity to fulfill these goals, it is worth noting that NICJR itself does not have that capacity without receiving this funding. In my opinion, a more effective and efficient approach would be to invest in and strengthen the organizations and programs that are already proven to work in Knoxville. Additionally, engaging directly with those who work closely with the populations that we aim to serve could provide valuable insight into what strategies are most effective. Historically, similar efforts in Knoxville, though often with different names, have faced challenges and did not produce the desired outcomes. Repeating the same thing over and over, expecting different results, is the definition of insanity. It's important to remember that the successful organization is less about the programming and curriculum and more about the people involved.
Okay, council, that concludes the people who signed up to speak to this. I do want to just bring to your attention that, first of all, Director Middlebrook is here to answer any questions, and also she put at your, in front of you, a one-page handout just to answer some questions that have come up that maybe were not as explicitly spelled out, or it's just to augment the information that you already had. As you all know, street outreach has been an effective tool, along with KPD and other community efforts. And this item, if you approve it tonight, will allow us to get street outreach workers back on the streets and continue the critical work of violence interruption next month. It's the way we can get it, get it going again as soon as possible. And NICJR is an entity we've been working with for 2 years. They're a nationally recognized leader in community-based violence reduction, and they're no stranger to Knoxville. They've been here. They've been training many people in our community. They've been working with LaKenya and her team. They've been working with KPD, and we're very pleased with their training and their insight that they've shared with us. Just as a point of information, the personnel who'll be hired are going to live here in Knoxville. They'll be here, from here. There are people who we need to hire, those critical, the idea is that they would be hiring people with credible track records of community engagement. Some of whom may already be doing the work, we don't know. That'll be up to the contractor. So anyhow, this answers some of those questions, but I'm sure you have more. So Councilmember McKenzie, and then we'll go to Councilmember Singh. Oh, who had their?
Or who was?
Who? I'm not sure whose light was on first. Councilmember Singh?
I'll go.
Okay.
Thank you, Mayor. I agreed with many of the speakers. I think Ms. Shipe brought up a lot of good points. To me, when I first read over this, the first feeling that I had was, do we not have trust in our community here that we are outsourcing from California, for someone to come in and within a month identify people, have them trained and on the street. There are a lot of people in this room that have worked in this field and in different capacities with different skills. We have the folks, we also have a lot of beefs going on, right? This person's hurt this person's feelings, this is going on with this person, they got more of a grant than I did. And this is a part of the work where we see giving to certain communities that have violence in it as a fight for scarcity. Who's going to get what funds? And then to take it from here and to, I know much of the money's going to come back to Knoxville, but it just feels like a huge slight to Knoxville to say, all right, we can't figure this out ourselves, let's find somebody else who can. And I don't think that this is work that they've done in another city where they come in and actually handpick and create this. So another concern that I have is in 2021, when there were so many deaths, February, March, and we really started working on this. Some of the first conversations and resolutions that came up were that the community needs to come to the table, right? All of the members of the community that are affected on both sides of the gun need to be at the table. And it feels like we're going in the opposite direction by taking it out of the community. At this point, as we saw with the previous contract, what council has the power to do is to approve the contract or not. Once we have approved it, we have no part of the details or how it unfolds or what happens at that point. So I would like to see a community conversation, people that are actually affected by this in Knoxville that are feeling very disrespected right now, that they're feeling very ignored, like, we've got to get outside help. And I believe we need to always have experts by our side, but we have those people here as well. So I would like to, I'm going to make a move to postpone it until after we have a community meeting.
Second. Motion has been made to postpone to no particular date, but after a community meeting.
Let's say
Is
1
that-
month, right? Let's say that.
28 days?
But I would like to see something planned before then. 2 months? Oh, so 2 months. That sounds good.
Okay,
Because there is some organizing work that needs to be done and some conversations.
Okay, motion is to postpone this item for 2 months, the 24th of June.
Yes, thank you.
And that motion has been seconded? Okay. Now, are there questions or comments on this motion?
I have a
Councilmember
question
McKenzie,
and a
sure.
comment. Is it possible to table this motion and the vote until other members of council have had an opportunity to ask questions for better clarity? Is that possible?
Well, right now, the motion is to postpone for 2 months. If that motion fails, then you guys can go back to discussing the whole contract and asking the questions that you have. I would just say, I mean, one of the reasons we're bringing this to you is, as opposed to doing RFP, to try to see if there's an entity who's ready to do this work and process and manage the street outreach, violence interrupters. We didn't think there was an organization that was ready to have the capacity to do the management. We do think there's community people who are doing and capable of being street violence interrupters, but the management is a little different, and that's why we're bringing.
That's by design. I'm kidding.
Okay, maybe I should just stand on that. I would just say that a two-month postponement means 2 months where the work isn't happening at the behest of, yeah.
Councilman McKenzie's statement. I do want to have discussion, so I do also want to make a motion for postponement, but more important is I want to hear from my colleagues, and then I'll put the motion out there a little bit further into the conversation.
So you're withdrawing your
I'm withdrawing it for
motion to
now,
postpone
yes.
for now? Okay. Councilmember McKenzie.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councilmember Singh. So Director Middlebrook, a couple of questions. So Could you just share what the oversight of NICJR was previously with the first contract that they had here?
What the oversight was?
Or what their involvement and capacity in
The scope of their
conjunction?
work? So for NICJR, with the city of Knoxville, they have been working with us, as has been previously mentioned, for about a year and a half, coming up on 2 years, I believe now. And currently, what they have been doing with us is providing technical assistance, coaching, training, both to City of Knoxville staff and to our previous outreach partners, so providing custom notification training to other partners who participate in our custom notification process, providing training around intensive life coaching and preparing the folks who have been trained to do intensive life coaching. NICJR provided all of that training, providing training on relentless pursuit and engagement, on case conferencing, basically all of the skills that a lot of the outreach workers and/or life coaches deploy in everyday work and engagement. NICJR, one, provided that training to staff, but also provided technical assistance and coaching to community partners. In addition, they have done training with other partners who are a part of the ecosystem to help better understand how all of the pieces work together. And support them in being able to be a part of the ecosystem of violence reduction in a meaningful way. And then as a part of the group violence reduction strategies work, as I mentioned, providing the custom notifications training, both to community partners, helping us understand how to document things, and then also providing training for our law enforcement partners and understanding what their role is in the violence reduction ecosystem as well.
So that's what they did previously, and so the scope of this work would be in that same vein, is that correct?
It would be in that same vein and then an expansion of that. And so when we contracted with them initially, we, kind of already had an outreach partnership in place. They have provided this type of service in other communities before. I think it's been mentioned that they haven't, but they actually have. But we did not include that in the initial scope, and so this would be expanding that initial scope to allow for a limited period of time for them to provide oversight of and implementation of outreach work. And so hiring and directly managing outreach partners, because they have experience in this work and have done it for a very long time. It would not require the level of back-end support that the Office of Community Safety has previously been providing. As more partners have come online and the scope of our work and kind of the ecosystem expands, we don't have the capacity to provide that level of support at this point. And so this gives us the opportunity to reinitiate work in a timely way, recognizing that the summer is upon us almost now. And so it allows us to reinitiate work in a timely way with people who are both experienced in managing the work and implementing the work and training others to do the work. And so in addition to allowing us to have the work going and started, I think it also positions us as a community for some of our partners and agencies who are in the space, who are interested in being able to do this work at a high level, to build their capacity and learn from these organizations. Because if you'll note in the scope of work, one of the things that it says in there is that part of what they will help us do is to identify longer-term solutions and onboard folks to be able to do the work in a sustained way. And so it's not intended to be a long-term thing, but it gives us the ability to have the work up and going and also have national experts and partners that can help build capacity for other providers to be able to function at a high level in this space.
So I'm running out of time, so I'm going to let someone else ask a question, and then I'm going to come back with an additional 5 minutes.
Okay, Councilmember Ryder?
Yeah, so Councilwoman McKenzie asked kind of some of the questions. So I look back, and We approved the contract in July of 2023 with NICJR, and so that's the contract you've been working under and you just described for Councilwoman McKenzie's question. We were doing that in tandem with other community violence interrupters. So what exactly do you see changing? I know you've kind of briefly described already what would be added to the new contract. This would be additional services, kind of, you mentioned summer coming up. What exactly do you see changing with the new contract?
So NICJR would assume the management of outreach. So previously, up to this point, what they have been doing is technical assistance and coaching. So they will hire outreach workers, they will manage outreach workers, they will prepare reports and provide those to our office in the similar way that previous partners have been doing. And so really what this expansion is for them to manage in the near term outreach for our community instead of just providing coaching or technical assistance.
And what's the term for that contract?
12 months.
Okay, so that would give us coverage and violence interruption whilst we figure out what we might do beyond that 12 months.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Councilmember Parker and then Helsley.
Thank you, Mayor. In talking about the training that the city through NICJR and others has provided, was there any initial training around nonprofit management since we were aware this was a new organization?
Did you want to add?
Yeah,
want me
that
to
was
go
a
ahead and
question
answer?
for you,
Okay,
yeah.
I know sometimes you like to ask all the questions first. So if you recall, when we initially entered the contract, the pilot, the organization was incubated in an existing organization. And that was the purpose for that organization to help support development. After that, our office provided support in terms of record management, training for staff, connected some resources for board development and other things. And I think it was mentioned in comment previously about use of fiscal sponsor. So in the first contract, there was a incubating organization. In the second contract, it's actually a fiscal sponsor. And then the last contract that you all approved was solely with the organization. And so our office attempted to provide as much support as we had at our disposal to be able to do that. NICJR also provided coaching in terms of managing a CVI-specific nonprofit, and then we also shared resources of other opportunities that were available.
And the reason why I ask is because when the initial contract with Turn Up Knox was first came before City Council, it was explained to City Council, this city is getting behind this organization. We're helping to develop this organization. We have, Seed serving as this incubator for this organization. And the idea being that the city would provide support in their development. I had concerns, initially with reporting and throughout the contracts, and I expressed that, but was given assurances. Now we have another proposal that is coming before us, and the idea is that this NICJR would do the hiring for this shorter period of time to allow the city to identify who that long-term partner would be. And I'm just confused by this process because I'm not hearing anything from NICJR about nonprofit management, any of those pieces which seem to be what the concern has been. In terms of the actual work, the city continues to fund organizations who are doing street outreach work. We just approved, as a council, smaller grants to some of those organizations like Renounce, Denounce, just recently. So to say that no one in the city is doing that work, I imagine is such a hard message to hear from these groups who are doing it for far less than they should be awarded for, but they show up and they're doing it and they're committed to it. I agree with postponing some sort of vote, and I have a lot more questions. I'm kind of in the same space as Councilmember McKenzie at this point. I think I'm gonna pause here and I might come back. But I'm in support of a process that brings the community together for a conversation of how to move forward. I'm concerned about the conflict that we have in our community because the resources are so limited, and we're honestly forcing community members to struggle with each other over these pennies that we're offering, while even considering giving over $500,000 to this outside organization. So I support another process moving forward, one that respects our community leaders who have already been engaged in this work.
Councilmember Helsley? Okay, Councilmember Roberta.
Thank you, Mayor. Director Middlebrook, as I understand it, the city's been working with NICJR for about 2 years, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and what this contract is doing is expanding the existing relationship we have with them, and what they'd be doing is that expansion is hiring local people and hiring local management to do this outreach. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay. Since the city contract ended, we've been without this service for, about 2 months. And I really think that's 2 months too long. We're going into the summer, and, I just can't, support not investing in this outreach. I think it's a really important program. It's quite frankly unacceptable that we've gone this long without having the outreach happening anyway. And we really need to make sure this happens. And going into the summer, I think it's a real issue. Because of that, I can't support postponing this because I think this is a very important program that we have to get city funding behind in a major way. I hear the issues and I understand where some of my colleagues are coming from with that. I think that what we should do is rather than postpone this, I think we should approve what we have here and then get a firm commitment that what's going to happen is going into this year contract, organizations will be brought into this, given the training and mentorship that they need, so that an RFP will be put out next year, so that a local organization will take the lead on this. That's what I think is the right thing to do. Director Middlebrook, is the intention here that this is a temporary solution to make sure that we have coverage over the summer, or is this a long-term prospect?
I'm sorry, I think I'm causing the ringing. Yes, so the solution is intended to be a temporary solution. As noted, this is designed to be a 12-month, up to 12-month contract. And in that process, part of the technical assistance that NICJR will be providing and the support is helping to identify, build up, and onboard a long-term provider that can sustain the work locally, that can sustain the work for an extended period of time. Because what we don't want to do, as has been previously mentioned, our office provides and has provided support at what I believe to be a very high level. But as our ecosystem grows, as this work grows, our capacity to devote a high level of attention and engagement to one or two organizations starts to diminish. And so what we really want is for our local organizations to build up the organizational capacity beyond just the outreach capacity, but also the organizational capacity to be successful in this, because I don't want to set people up to not be successful.
So we've got a commitment that this, exactly what you just said, would go forward, and that next year we'd be looking at an RFP to do exactly that and have a local organization that's managing this.
Correct, and I will add that, you know, our goal and our aim from the inception has been to try to have, if possible, multiple providers that do similar work. And as I have shared with you all before on, you know, multiple occasions, this is very specific work. And so I think sometimes we tend to talk about violence reduction and outreach kind of more broadly, but this is very specific work. And we want to make sure that our organizations who are going to be doing that work both have the tools that they need from the actual boots on the ground functional work, but also on the administrative side. And we see this as a great opportunity to expose some of our local organizations to national experts who have done this work well and at a high level for a sustained period of time, to learn from, to partner with, and to grow their capacity to do this work in a meaningful way.
Thank you.
Councilmember Helsley?
Well, the conversation kind of changed since I've been sitting here waiting, but it's okay. So this feels to me very much like a family feud in Knoxville. Like everybody's mad at everybody else, and somebody didn't get their way, or they didn't feel like they were treated as they should have been treated. NICJR has been here in the mix for 2 years, I think, right? So they've obviously been working, and I guess they could have been doing this, but we have the outreach people, and what I heard before with Turn Up Knox was, well, they weren't qualified to do the administrative piece. Okay, well, administration, it's a different skill set, to be real, but being between two bullets is a real skill set that I don't want to do. So I'm a little confused why they couldn't have already been doing that. I mean, it's like we just keep kind of changing the conversation, and it's just confusing. This is a really huge item that landed on our agenda, and I read it no less probably than a dozen times from top to bottom, and I was still confused when I got through. Now, I did talk to Director Millbrook today, and I did get some clarity, but I still don't understand all these groups we have out here who do this work already. Why are we not using them? Are we going to possibly use them with NICJR
Well, Councilmember Helsley, there's nothing that would preclude those people who are doing this work in the field from applying for these positions if the contract is approved.
But if they're there, why do they have to apply again? They're doing it now, right? You have people
Well,
doing it.
it's because you know, we have a contract and we have, you know, accountability requirements for taxpayer dollars, and we just want to make sure that the people doing the work also have the training and support and insurance and, you know, salary and benefits to be paid fairly for this professional level work. It's trying to continue the work in a way that is supported through people with management experience, and while the capacity for the local groups build so they can do it themselves a year from now when we issue an RFP. We were concerned that issuing an RFP at this juncture would not result in any successful respondents.
Okay, so I agree the work needs to be done, and I don't necessarily think pausing it is a grand idea. I mean, I think violence is down in Knoxville now, and I think we need to make sure that it stays down. So we have to do it at some level, so whatever we have to do, I guess we have to do, and contracts are what you all do, and we vote for them. So I guess I'm probably okay as long as violence stays down, but if it doesn't, then that's a whole nother conversation from my perspective.
Councilmember Fugit?
Thank you, Mayor. I think, I say it a lot, two things can be true. We've had great work done by the people actually doing the work. Where there has been some concern by the part of our government that is responsible for making sure fiduciary work is done correctly for taxpayer money, we have felt that that has perhaps not gone as well as we want, and perhaps it was prematurely given to folks that, or groups that everybody thought it would work. Nobody thought it wouldn't. Parts of it have worked, parts of it haven't worked as well as the administration had hoped. So I look at this as we want the work to continue. This national organization can hire people who are already doing the work to continue to build local capacity. But I do agree with my colleagues that we need some more discussion and some community discussion, and I think those things can happen at the same time. What I heard was the contract is up to 12 months. If we think we're ready sooner, I assume we can issue an RFP sooner.
Correct.
And that would be my hope. But I think this is an opportunity to take a step back for a little, let the work continue, let the training continue to a level that the people who are responsible for making sure that the financial work and all the I's that are dotted and T's that need to be crossed are being done, and that the organizations can be supported in a way that it sounds like the administration does not feel like they have the capacity to do on their own anymore. And so we want to expand the scope of work to someone that's already been working with us to take on some of that administrative burden that had fallen on Ms. Middlebrook's department.
Correct.
And so I think when nobody's truly happy, this may be the right decision. Because it is trying to it's not a winner and a total loser. It is what keeps the momentum going forward. So I'm inclined to support this with a very strong recommendation that within 60 days, this council has a workshop to hear more about exactly what the scope of work is and the organization comes and talks to us about their timeline for getting these things done, and have a public community conversation, because there is I sense a lot of frustration and mistrust, and I'd like for that not to continue.
Thank you. Councilmember Thomas, you had your light on. Did you want?
Yeah, I've, a couple of things going on here is, well, first of all, we definitely need more conversation about this. There's no doubt about it. And, we had Turn Up Knoxville, and the figures were going down as far as crime and violence and all that. They were praised for it. And then we somehow got bogged down in either personalities or paperwork. I don't know which, but from everybody I heard, it was one of the two. And I, from the very beginning, and still do, wish that team was intact because they were effective. And my opinion is that we had a team that was effective. They were doing good work. Maybe they needed help with paperwork. Maybe somebody needed to solve some problems with personalities. But that stuff could be fixed. And it would be kind of like, my suggestion would be the parties should have gotten in a room together and shut the door and not come out until they fixed it, because the work that they were doing was just too valuable. I mean, we saw a decrease in shootings. We all know what the statistics were, but, one of them was that for the first time in foreseeable records, black violence went down lower than whites did. So we were doing something right. And instead of, I'm afraid we're reinventing the wheel and doing the whole thing over when we had it right to begin with. And it could have been fixed at that level. So I'm kind of, I hear all the arguments. I don't know that I can commit between $500,000 and $800,000 tonight when we haven't had that discussion among the community. So these are maybe more thoughts of mine than a suggestion, but I guess I'll just leave it to my colleagues to continue the discussion.
Councilmember McKenzie?
Thank you, Mayor. So no disrespect to anyone that's here, but I want to be very clear that there is no one entity that can say that they were totally responsible for the decrease in the violence and the violent crimes and the deaths that we saw across this city. It was a collaborative effort from a lot of resources, many of which are represented in this room, along with KPD and the community at large. So I want to put that out there. But we did have one organization that the city, we propped up and we promoted that had direct access to real-time resources that other organizations did not have. And so it did afford them the opportunity to be more up close and personal in doing the work and the scope of the work. And people have still been doing the work. And they've not been getting paid. There have been people doing this work for many years and have not been getting paid for it because they have a passion for the community, for young people, and to see people have redemption, because a lot of those people have walked that walk and been down those paths, and they know where they lead. And so with respect to NICJR, I do think that they add a layer of training and expertise because they originate out of a city that has seen much bigger than us and a lot more violence. So I do think that they do bring a lot to the table as far as training and insight. And no family feud, but I can understand where people who have been doing the work out of passion and out of commitment to the community and young people would feel somewhat slighted and overlooked, if you will, and alienated. And we experienced that when the first contract came out that was awarded to Turn Up Knox, but was able to mitigate and work through the majority of that. But I would like to see us be able to create a more cohesive ecosystem as it relates to these organizations and us helping to be a catalyst, and maybe that is through NICJR, of bringing these groups together, ensuring that they all are equipped with the training and being able to share their life experience and what they're seeing, and expand their access as it relates to information through KPD, sharing what they can, as well as them sharing what they're allowed to do. I did notice that in the contract, it does give a provision, and I think this is something new that Turn Up Knox was not even privy to, was a financial incentive for people to participate in the life coaching sessions. And if they successfully completed, that they're given a stipend or something?
Turn Up Knox had the opportunity to provide incentives to participants. And as a matter of fact, NICJR granted them money to do so in addition to what was already in their proposed budget.
Okay, thank you.
So that is not new.
Okay, so thank you for that point of clarification. And maybe we'll come back to them at some point and find out if that was actually done. I'll be honest, I'm not necessarily a proponent of paying people to be productive citizens and want to change their life around. I'd rather see those funds maybe being utilized to help them get in additional programs, or if there's housing and those types of things, or counseling services. And again, I am not opposed to the city's investment and intentionality around violence reduction. I just want to make sure that we are being very intentional about the way we go about it. At this point, there's no room for error. We cannot see another situation that we've experienced in the past. We have to be able to get it right this time. And so look forward to hearing additional comments as it relates to that.
Thank you.
And if I can just add, clarification on the incentives piece. And so the way the incentives are designed to work, individuals who are enrolled in intensive life coaching, they have a plan that with goals that they identify with their life coach. And so it's not a matter of like you're just paid to show up and not get in trouble, but as you reach certain benchmarks or achieve certain goals, there's a small financial benefit that's tied to that. And part of it is just, you know, recognizing that sometimes folks need incentives to keep them engaged in programming, and sometimes especially a lot of the work that they do is related to tying them to additional resources, which is why you heard from some of the community partners in the room that are folks that they connect them to for mental health supports, for medical supports. We have partners that we connect them to for housing or employment, but a lot of times folks may not necessarily be ready to step right into employment. And so if you complete a training that you identified that you want to take, then that may be a $25 incentive or a $50 incentive. So it's not a large windfall of money. It's just a benefit to actually participating in the program and matriculating through and achieving the goals that you set for yourself.
Thanks for that clarification.
Thank you, Director Middlebrook. Just one response to your comments, Councilmember McKenzie, is to me, the proposal that is in front of you all tonight, if you all vote for it, then we can get the violence interruption up and running next month while we continue to meet with the community, while NICJR builds up the capacities of whatever organizations want to be ready to bid on it next spring or earlier if we're ready. But that gives us time to have the community meetings, to build up the capacity of local entities while there are people on the ground here in Knoxville doing the work to interrupt violence. That is, I think that we're sort of saying the same thing. It's just, I'm glad we're saying it now, but I mean, that to me, voting for this contract allows us to do that while the violence interruption can be happening this summer. Because, unfortunately, summertime is often a time when crime goes up, and we don't want that to happen. Councilmember Singh, and then Parker.
Thank you, Mayor. If we are truly trying to get things up and running quickly, it sounds like kind of what Councilmember Thomas was saying. We have people with the skills. They've been doing the work. I think it needs to be more inclusive and include more people in this room and community members, but we already have that. The piece we don't have was the part about reporting and the weight it put on the Office of Safety and Empowerment. So it feels like with these hurt feelings and with the family feud, we would rather throw out all of this training and all of this work that we've done instead of say, okay, this is what's lacking, let's fill that in. And it could be through Nick Jr., as I call them, but it could be through them. It doesn't have to be. It seems like a longer-term solution to ask them to come into town, to start identifying people. We've identified them. They just need help in other areas. I think that would move much faster. Another piece that Ms. Shipe had said, it damages community when you have had people out there saying, I have the trust, I have the relationships, and then we just snatch them up and go, no, you can't have them anymore. We're gonna make different decisions. They've got relationships. They know whose cousin did what with whose cousin, 20 years ago. They know community stuff. I could not step in and start doing that kind of work, even though I'm from Knoxville. It has to be certain community members that already have a lot of this knowledge that can't be taught. It's experience, it's character. And then speaking of the character piece, it has felt like, with all the hurt feelings about Turn Up Knox, that there've been slight smears about their financial dealings. And I've spoken with the CPA firm that they work with. They serve some of the wealthiest families in Knoxville. This isn't just shade tree accountants. So that's a piece that's important. That might not be their expertise in reporting, but I know that every month or so, all the council members were getting different reports. And if that's where this money and this contract needs to go, it makes more sense to me to just add to what's wrong versus just wipe the desk clean and start over again.
Councilmember Parker?
Thank you, Mayor. I wanted to correct something that was said earlier about this work just now having begun. When Knoxville experienced an escalation of violence almost 10 years ago now that impacted too many of our youth in the community, including Xavion Dobson, which many remember his name, we had violence prevention groups active at that time. I remember, there was an effort to increase funding to some sort of violence prevention groups during that period. I remember Safe Haven was very active and had their gym program and was doing a level of street outreach that we're largely replicating now. I remember Connected Ministries and Seed and OBA had a program at the time. Maybe it wasn't called Guns Up, Guns Down, but all of these folks have been doing the work for over a decade. And many of them will continue the work whether they're paid or not. And that's what is impacting largely what happens in our communities is the dedication of these community members. And I feel like unity that used to exist among these community members has now been broken down because of this funding situation. Because instead of funding each group at $100,000, which would be revolutionary, I mean, it would change our communities. We're putting it all in one pot, and it's hurting the rest, who are struggling to do extremely important work on much, much smaller grants. And just kind of having to suck it in, and know that they're doing good work even when they're not being acknowledged. The idea of this group coming in and hiring locally, I can't wrap my brain around it. The trust factor is the largest piece. We had a big hurdle to get over with Turn Up Knoxville. It was a brand new organization, brand new name. What is this? But there was a lot of effort put behind trying to introduce that work to the community. But still, there have been issues of trust. There have been constant questions throughout these years because of how that organization was formed. And now we're taking another step back from it being really community-based. Oh yeah, community members will be hired, but hired to what? What organization? What trusted name is now going out into the community, knocking on doors, making phone calls? I was reading about an article about Oakland ceasefire when it started 3 iterations ago in the early 2000s. And they talk about how they couldn't get many participants involved. We've had updates on from the city's violence reduction working group, where I think they're focused on 10 individuals who could either be involved in gun violence or a victim of gun violence, but only 1 has taken services. This is what we saw in Oakland when they started their program. Folks would reach out. People didn't know who was calling. Is this what program is this? Are you connected to the police? What are the consequences if I really do talk to you? To make those programs effective, it starts with community trust, with that trust, with a trusted community voice approaching individuals and knowing that that person is only there to help them. They're not there in a carrot or stick situation, which means if you don't cooperate with them, they're now going to turn you over to the police, right? Effective street outreach relies on those relationships and that trust. And I just don't see how this program can come in and hire being based in California. And my last question before my time runs out is, how is this work funded? because I'm still hearing questions about the federal community violence intervention grant that we received.
Yeah, thank you, Councilmember Parker. The money's being funded through the local general fund, city tax dollars.
So we still haven't used that grant?
Because this is a contract extension, the federal government does not look kindly on shifting funds, shifting contracts that already existed to a grant. And so this is not under the grant, it's under, as Mayor mentioned, local funds.
Well, I
Yeah,
would
and
like to-
also right now, I would just say that very, glad that this is locally funded because that means we can move forward with knowing that the money's going to be there. Councilmember Thomas?
Yes, piggybacking some off of Councilperson Singh and Councilperson Parker's, we talk about what a great idea it is for the organization, the National Institute of Criminal Justice, to come in and hire some local people that are fitting for the job and all that, except we've already done that. We've already been through this process, and they come in and did that. We had a great team, and absolutely, it wasn't just Turn Up Knoxville that did it. That's a given. But we saw the statistics that were coming in. They were praised by the administration, and now we're having to go through this whole thing again. And I think that what should have happened was we should have kept Turn Up Knoxville intact, kept that team intact who was doing such good work, and solved whatever problems that they had. The statistics were saving people's lives. And I just feel like we're going through déjà vu again. And we may have the very same thing to happen this next time. So I think it was a mistake to terminate the contract with Turn Up Knoxville. I think whatever problems should have been fixed, whatever it took. And I still feel that way.
Well, Councilmember Thomas, we really tried hard to make just what you said happen, and countless meetings, countless phone calls, countless efforts with the board and the staff. And I just want to say to council, again, I think we're all on the same page that we need to continue to stop violence in our city, and that violence interruption is one strategy that's been working. I would be glad if this is able to be approved tonight to commit to a workshop in the near future, and also to commit to ongoing conversations so that this time next year we're able to do an RFP that's maybe divides the money up into more than one potential contract. The long-term outcome in some cities is, you start with one entity, you get it rolling, and then maybe you expand it to others. But the challenge has been, and one person said that the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over again and expecting a different outcome. And the challenge has been not with NICJR and not with the people who are trained by NICJR to do street violence interruption. The challenge has been with the capacity of the local organizations to be strong in the leadership management capacity. Being an employer is different from being a street violence interrupter. Interacting with your staff, telling them what's going on, telling them when they're going to get, messages about things, that's management. And it's different, and this contract buys us time to continue the violence interruption work while also helping building up the capacity of other entities that want to learn how to do the management side as well as the violence interruption. And this contract as written would be hiring people here in Knoxville. And there's nothing that would preclude people who've been doing this work, who enjoy doing the work, who want to continue to do the work and get paid to participate in this contract. So what you said can happen. Some of it starting next month, and the individual local organizations could respond to an RFP when they're ready, when we're ready to keep that going. So Councilmember Helsley?
So is there a possibility that we could go with an interim contract? And I don't mean a year. It doesn't have to be a year. It can be less than a year. We've already talked about that. And still have, if we feel need, a workshop in the summer. But I think coming into summer and kids being out of school, I think it's really critical that we don't stop trying to keep violence down. I can't. There's too much time for kids to have on their hands in the summertime. So I mean, I'm happy to make a motion. I'm kind of reading faces or trying to, which is kind of difficult because y'all are like, yeah, they're kind of smiling now because I said that. So I want to put a motion on the floor and we'll try this and see what happens, is that we go ahead with an interim contract, not necessarily for a year because it didn't have to be a year, for the interim contract. And in the meantime, ask the vice mayor to schedule a workshop to where we can see how it's going, and at whatever time we get up and running, let's do it. And it might be a few months or whatever. So that's the motion, and y'all can like shoot me later or
Okay.
buy me a beer, do
The
whatever. you want to do.
motion is to approve this contract, which is interim up to 12 months, and
Hopefully
with the
not
understanding that we would have a workshop that you all schedule and we staff out and plan. Is that?
That's fair, and hopefully it won't be a year. I don't think it has to be a year. I think, yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Contract needs a date certain.
Well, it says
for
up
how
to a
long it
year.
is.
That's what it says.
Yeah,
Up
okay,
to,
but you're kind of saying, okay, fine, I'll
The
be quiet.
contract that's before you says up to 12 months.
I just don't want to think they have a whole year. I want them to like do something.
You want them to hustle.
I want
But
them to hustle.
I second your motion if you'll just,
Leave that to a year. Okay, you win.
Okay, the motion's been made in
the
favor of
motion
the
is to
contract.
approve it.
The motion to approve.
With-
But, I mean, I'll say, it doesn't have to be part of the motion. We will be
no.
happy to have a workshop. But, you know,
Second.
you can
I
have a.
seconded it.
I'd like to speak to what Councilwoman
Okay, the
Hensley
motion to approve has been made and seconded, and now more discussion. Councilmember Singh.
on that piece. I hear your sentiment on getting things going fast. What I feel that once this is out of council's hands, it's out of our hands. Once we've approved this, we're out of this. It's not our business anymore. It's executive branch. So that's a concern of mine, that who's going to make the decision that, okay, it's been 6 months, but we are up to where we're supposed to be. If we really wanted to do this quickly, we would look over this, in my opinion, look over this contract and see how we could make it fit more appropriately with what we already have here, rather than redoing it. I think that's a much faster path, but it means people getting over themselves, right? All of us need to do that. So that's the piece that I don't want to say, let's approve this temporarily, because we're not going to be looking at it again. We're not going to have, we don't have a set date for, let's look at it again at this point, or are we going to have a community conversation? Are we going to get all the participants at the same table and figure this out? So I'd like to include that in any type of motion that comes next. I want a postponement, that's what I'm saying.
Okay. Let's see, Councilmember Helsley?
We're just fumbling up here. Would you, balls in your court.
I don't.
So how about if we put it back and said in August, you have to come back to us with something? I'm nervous about summer coming. I don't know, whatever y'all want to do. I don't know. I just think summer's a problem. So if y'all don't like that, then that's.
Okay.
So you're saying approve this for 2 months?
Well, no, I don't think you can say, because I don't think they're going to vote. Like Lynn says, they're not going to vote for 2 months, I don't think. But it's just up to 12, and hopefully, if they don't need it, they won't use it for 12 months. But now I can't speak for what the administration's going to do.
We can't, yeah. It's out of our hands at that point.
So your opinion is if we vote on anything now, we're done and we won't see it again.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, on behalf of the administration, as mayor, that I'm happy to commit to a workshop where we dig into this while also the work is happening. You know, we can do both things. And I think that would be the best path forward for the safety of our city. Let's see, there's a lot of lights on. Councilmember Fugit and then Mackenzie.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to try to amend, I believe, the motion that Councilwoman Helsley made, if you're okay with this. So I make a motion that we approve the contract as written with a mandatory report, a mandatory status report, progress report by the administration every 90 days until an RFP is issued.
Okay, the motion to amend is made, well, just what she said. Is there a second to that motion? Okay. For the record, that's fine with me. Any further questions or discussion? Councilmember McKenzie?
Yes. So I would like to have the administration and my colleagues to also entertain an addition to this contract, because I do have a concern with NICJR and who they would be looking at hiring to fill these positions. If it could include a workshop that would be inclusive and inviting all community partners to the table prior to the hiring process to go over what the intent is and how they may have an opportunity to engage with this work, or some of them may even want to apply for some of these positions. That is how we want to word that. But that's one of the things that I think would be a critical piece for me.
Councilmember McKenzie, I don't know if that would work in terms of the contract. I mean, we're contracting with them to be the oversight and the employer. We could commit to saying that when they post the jobs, we'd make sure to get the word out, but.
Yeah, I'm a little concerned because, again, and I hate to sound like somebody said, not being from here may not know who people really are in the community, their reach, their capacity, their reputation, their level of respect in the communities that they are going to be serving. And so that is a concern to me. So I'm not sure how we address that, but they're not going to know who people are, per se,
Yeah.
other than the people that they have worked with previously through the Turnup-Knox contract,
Well,
that administration.
I'd also just remind council members that a lot of those people will be a good pool of applicants for them to consider since they've had that training. I don't know what the intentions are. We would hire them in part because we want them to use their expertise to hire and train the best people, some of whom already maybe been in their training. So you're making, I'm not sure if there's a proposed motion or what exactly it contains.
That's what I was going to ask.
Yeah.
Is there a motion on the floor? Are we going to vote on it? And then if it does not pass, I have a motion to make.
Yeah, there's a motion on the floor that has been made and seconded by Councilmember Fugit about a 90, approve the contract tonight, and then we would report back to council updates every 90 days until an RFP is issued. That's the motion on the floor. Council, yeah, there was a second. Councilmember Parker, and then we'll go over to this side.
Well, the motion doesn't really make sense to me because I don't know what we would be looking for in those reports. I have an overall just concern about this process, because also what I feel like is not being understood about this work is that, well, Councilmember Singh said a lot of it. You can't just take any individual and train them to be ready for this work. We are hiring and relying on people who are bringing their name, their reputation, their relationships to make the work happen. You can't train someone and get access to that level of information. And if you have that level of information, why would I then risk my reputation and go work for some entity and manager that I don't know? I don't know how they manage. I don't know how they're going to interact with community members that I work with. I don't know how they present themselves. Why would I align myself, put myself under their direction when they can't do the work without my name and reputation? Why would I do that? And so what will happen is the people who can actually do the work won't apply for the job. They'll continue doing work in the spaces where they're doing it. And then we've wasted money giving it to them to hire people who are less qualified because they don't have the relationships that the people have who are actually doing the work. It's just, to me, it's more waste than money being wasted. When we could go to our community partners, we just gave 30,000 to, 50,000 to, 20,000 to, and say, hey, we need to build the capacity of what we're able to do as a city over this summer. Who is able to do that? If we increase your grant from 30,000 to 60,000, can you hire additional personnel who can then be out on the streets this summer? I mean, my favorite part of this meeting so far is seeing the talking happen in the back room. That's my favorite part of the meeting so far. And I hope a good outcome from this, because we're creating unnecessary conflict in the community and potentially wasting money unnecessarily, so that it seems like we're keeping the work going. I mean, there have been so many voices here tonight who have said, I've got to support this because I don't want the work to stop. I can tell that's the narrative that you've been sold maybe, or that you feel like you have to believe, but the work is continuing. People are doing that work every day. And it could be even more collaborative, it could be even more effective with the proper resources from the city. But saying we have to approve this because we don't want the work to stop, I think is disingenuous. People in the community are going to continue to do this work, and we can't hold resources from them in hopes that they will put their name and reputation on the line in some other program that we're hoping to fund and create. So I support, hopefully, the motion coming up to postpone, and I see no harm. In fact, it brings more attention to the issue when we postpone this and immediately commit to public conversations around this. We are instantly shining a light on this issue and telling the community, we as a community are getting prepared. We're not just gonna write a check and send it off to California and tell them to fix our problems. We're coming together as a community to figure out how we're gonna move forward together. That's what I wanna see, that's what I support.
Thank you. I just wanted to get back to Councilmember McKenzie's request. We can commit to a meeting with anyone who wants to attend before the hiring is made, if that seems like a good idea, and we'll commit to that as well. Councilmember Thomas.
Yes, the points that my colleagues McKenzie and Parker made in regard to hiring people with the experience in the community. You can't come in and train people to do this unless they have a connection with the community. It's ridiculous to think you can. And when we were having conversations on front porches in Lonsdale, and we were talking about creating Turn Up Knoxville or some group that would be innovative and would have those connections in the community that would actually work, that's what the people in the community said would work, and the data showed that it was work. You can't train people just to do this. They have to have connections in the community. They have to be known. They have to have street cred. And unless that group of people is, with this program, is the type of people doing it, it's going to be a waste of money. It's going to be a waste of money. We're going to have people out there doing stuff, but I don't have confidence that the data is going to show that they're helping. They may be, employed and trained, but what was great about this program with Turn Up Knoxville and why it worked was you had that approach where people had their fingers in the community. They knew people. They knew who was at odds people. They could go in ways that the police couldn't and contact the right people and say, let's diffuse this. We know them. And it showed up in data. So I think I've got some of the concern that, well, we need to just do something, but I'm not convinced that we're not losing sight of that kind of community contact that will work. I don't think I'm going to be able to vote for this tonight. I may abstain. I think I would feel more comfortable with a postponement and get the community's input before we voted on it. I see both sides to it to some degree, but we're talking about a lot of money here, and I'm just not convinced that we're going into it with the right attitude.
Thank you. Director Middlebrook, did you have a point of information based on Mr.
Yes,
Thomas's comments?
I just wanted to reiterate that the individuals hired, NICJR is not looking to come in and just hire anybody to fill a spot. And as I mentioned, these are individuals who have, many of them have done this work, actually. They have been CVI staff, credible messengers, outreach workers, life coaches. They have managed these roles, and they have also consulted and trained with individuals. And so they understand the importance of the credible part of credible messenger. It's not enough to just have a messenger. It has to be a credible messenger. And so they will not be looking to just come in and hire any and everybody off the street who shows up to apply. They will, want to know and understand that these are folks who are embedded in community, who have relationships, who have a passion for doing this work, and also are open to training and development to learn kind of the professional side and the skill and technique of actually doing outreach work and life coaching especially, which again is specialized work. And so I don't want council or members of the public to think that the goal is just to fill positions with bodies. These are folks who are reputable in this space, who understand the critical aspect of having credible messengers as credible messengers, and that the credibility there exists. And so it's not just going to be a free-for-all hiring of anybody who shows up. They will be focused on filling these positions with folks who are connected in community in that way.
Councilmember Thomas.
Sounds like we're talking about the team that was with Turn Up Knoxville.
Again, but with management. Councilmember
We
Roberto.
can fix management, and we did.
This is the fix. This is the fix.
It should have been fixed then, and we wouldn't have to be going through this all over again.
It takes two to fix things. We tried. Yeah. Councilmember Roberto.
Thank you, Mayor. I think it's really great that we have providers in the community who are, doing this work, and like it's been talked about, sometimes without any pay. The problem that I have is that we haven't been having city investments at a significant level at doing this for at least 2 months because of these conflicts. And I don't want to see that happening anymore. And I want to make sure that we're investing in doing this work now, and I don't want to see us go into the summer without it happening in a major way like what we're doing here. But what I hear from my colleagues is the frustration with how we got here, and I understand that, and I'm frustrated by that too. But what I'm looking at is a need that we need to make sure we deal with going forward into the summer, and I just don't want us to not have significant city funding going towards this really critical work. I think that the commitment that we're hearing about, and what I heard from some of my colleagues about bringing everyone into this process and having a commitment to build capacity with the groups that we have now. That's what I was getting from Director Middlebrook about what the goal was for doing this process, was to bring everyone in, give training, hire folks, get to the point where we don't have this issue anymore, because none of us want to have this happening anymore. What I'm also hearing from some of my colleagues is that we need to have accountability, which we haven't had, okay? So we need to have accountability. So how do we do that? Well, I think it's great if we get 90-day reports. I have no issue with that. I think getting 90-day reports are good. I think it's great if we have a workshop. Again, good things. But what I think we need to do is have a workshop that allows us to hold everyone accountable. And what I would think is the way to do that, to make sure we don't have a gap with significant city funding going towards this very critical work, is that we say we'll have an amendment to have this this funding go through, September 1st, and in August we'll have a workshop, and then council will make a decision before September 1st on whether to renew the contract or go in a different direction. Then you have accountability. If it doesn't happen this summer the way we want it to happen, then we have a way of holding everything accountable and going forward without missing out on important city funding going into this project into the summer. So that would be my suggestion.
Are you offering a friendly amendment?
That's a friendly amendment.
I accept your friendly amendment and will second it.
So I'm a little confused. What exactly?
It's not a
So
year,
it's
it's
a-
not a year contract anymore.
What we heard from folks is I want accountability.
Could we do 6 months? I think 6 months, I mean, 6 months is a really pretty short time.
I mean, I don't disagree.
But anyhow.
I think that what I'm hearing from my colleagues is this is important. We want to make sure it's done right, and we want to have some way of not just getting reports, but making sure this is done accountably, that we can hold people accountable. So if we did the contract for a shorter period of time, and then we had a workshop where we then have to get a report, hear what's going on, and then afterwards, in an upcoming council meeting, vote on whether we deal with the contract again in a short term, we can figure out whether this is working or not. Because this work is so important, it needs to work. We don't need to have these issues anymore. So I'm open to it being a longer period, Mayor, like 6 months. I understand where you're coming from there, but we need to have some period of time when that's going to happen. So my suggestion was that we did, August, because we were talking about a date for a workshop in August. And I think a workshop's great. This is a good topic for us to talk about, but it doesn't hold anyone accountable, and that's the issue. You want to do 4 months? That's 4 months in August. So
What day is it? I mean, I'm just trying to figure out, May, June, July, August.
But
It would
this
be-
contract wouldn't run out until September 1st.
Right.
It was
so
what I was saying.
It would be 4 months. That would be a 4-month contract.
Yeah. I think that gives us the accountability that Councilmember Singh is asking about.
Well, just as a point of information, I mean, it takes 2 parties to sign a contract, and you guys can amend it to a shorter time, and ICJR may be fine with that, and we don't know. I mean, but, we certainly can propose that and see what they say.
I think I accept your friendly amendment because I would like for as many of us as possible to support whatever it is we decide to do. May not work, but it's progress.
So, to me, it would make sense to have it, a workshop in August with knowing that the contract term ends after that, not before that. So,
So workshop in August, and then contract expires October 1. Is that going to work?
I don't know what day of the week October 1st is.
Actually, I don't know what it is either, but that's a 5-month contract. That seems like a reasonable compromise.
Mr. Swanson?
You'll need to keep in mind that a contract has been negotiated with a second party who's not here tonight. So you can vote for this, but that does not mean we'll have a contract if the other contracting party does not agree to that time period, so.
And I recognize that it's 2 parties, but I think what council is saying is that we want to have these, we want to make sure we've got a commitment to bring all the providers into the process and do capacity building. We want to have steps towards accountability and reporting, and if we get those, then we're in agreement with the contract. If they don't agree to that, then we have to look at other options.
Councilmember Helsley?
I was just gonna say, I don't know why they wouldn't. They've been here for 2 years or whatever, and supposedly they don't want to be in the mix for a really long time, so we're giving them an opportunity for a shorter time.
Councilmember Fugit?
I call the question.
Oh, I just got one question.
Oh, I'm sorry, Councilwoman Parker, I didn't know your light was on.
Okay.
I
So you're-
withdraw my call.
Okay, Councilmember Parker and then Singh.
And my question is actually about the amendment, or the, We ain't even halfway through our agenda. I'm so tired. What I heard, the motion as amended was to amend the term of the contract, but not necessarily the price of the contract? Is this what I'm
Well,
hearing?
presumably, we'd only pay them for the amount of time they're doing the work.
Right, yeah.
That's the general practice.
I'm not good with unclear terms when it comes to contracts. So that concerns me, but also just the focus on the front end is where I worry the money would be wasted, because now they're spending all this effort to get started and to do a search and hire people. And I actually can't even imagine how the program would be redesigned and what they would tell individuals that they interview, who's interviewing for a 5-month job. There's just a lot of pieces that don't make sense to me. I think it makes more sense to postpone it for 2 months and to have a workshop. I don't understand why we would start this process. Alternatively, what I could imagine is providing them a small grant to submit a proposal to the city. They could do some initial work, come spend some time in Knoxville, speak with the community, identify who they think are effective leaders, and make a proposal. I would be open to that, and I would be open to city funding that. But without even kind of testing them to see what they come up with, and we're just going to say, we trust you, come up with something, man, that's wild. There's just no way I can get behind that. A 2-month, 3-month, 4-month, 5-month contract. That's where the initial that's when the initial investments are made, and it's just a waste of money to only do that portion of the work. So I'm in support of a postponement. I'm in support of reimagining how to move forward and dividing up this money among existing organizations. I'm in support of a workshop to bring the community into a larger discussion. I would love to, during that workshop, to have a presentation from the city that brings some of those conversations out of the violence reduction working group and into the public. I'm trying to educate the public on what I'm hearing from those working group meetings, and I think the public wants to hear and deserves to understand what our approach to violence interruption has been. So there's not just surrounding this contract, but in its time, in general, it's time for the city to be more transparent about this work. This is a perfect opportunity for the city to present to the public, because really, there's a shift being made. There's a shift being made from the traditional street outreach to the group violence intervention. Those are two different strategies, and we're talking about them like they're the same thing. No, your street outreach team should have a completely different approach than a group violence intervention approach. So, just how we're having these conversations, I'm finding frustrating, and we need a space to check in with the community, explain to the community what's going on, talk about what's coming next, and there's a leadership role for us to play here. I really don't feel like this is something we can outsource. The leadership is in our city. The issues are our city's issues. And we got to show up and be the leaders. Be the leaders who are determining how this work moves forward. We know the landscape. We know the people. We can make these decisions.
Thank you. Council members, I just wanted to, as a point of information, all of the violence leadership team, violence reduction leadership team meetings are open to the public. Many council members have attended, many members of the public have attended, of course, our partners have attended, and that will continue. We've certainly made a big effort to be as transparent as possible in that. And the group violence reduction strategy is just the overall plan. Street violence interruption is one component of that. This city never used to do anything in this effort. It was all just community-based and not directly funded by the city in the past. But in 2021, this council responded to the community's need in a time of crisis and put significant funding towards our Office of Community Safety and Empowerment and towards violence reduction. And this contract would allow us to continue that work sooner rather than later. Also, I just want to say, Nick Jr. and ICJR is not new to Knoxville. They've been working with us for at least 2 years now, and they have a track record of success in other communities. We are proposing this contract so we benefit from their expertise to build our capacity to do it here. And that's all. I mean, I think we're sort of making things a little more complicated than they need to be. Violence interruption is a strategy that works. We all want to continue it. We want to build the capacity of local groups. I think there's consensus around that. This contract enables us to do that. I hope you'll vote for it. I don't know, who's next? Nobody over here? Councilmember McKenzie?
What motion is on the floor right now?
I think the motion on the floor is the friendly amendment. It started with Councilmember Fugits, and then Councilmember Roberto reduced it to 6 months. And then we have separate from the motion, we're happy to work with council and schedule a workshop in August, if that's when it works for everybody.
I think that the motion is that the contract will go through Wednesday, October 1st, 2025, that there will be a workshop and reporting to council in August, and there will be a vote before the expiration of the contract on whether or not to continue it in September. Does that sound right?
Okay, so now that there's a little more clarity on the motion, is there a second on that motion as he just described? Okay, the motion's been made to change the length of time of the contract, and, Mr. Evans has given me we would reduce the contract amount based on the monthly amount, so whatever that works out to exactly. So that's the motion. It's been seconded. Any further questions or discussion? Councilmember McKenzie?
So would that be contingent on them accepting this change?
Of course.
Okay.
They'd have to sign the contract. And if they don't, then, we would have to do something else.
Okay. Kind of hate to put another, I really would like to postpone for 2 weeks to give an opportunity. I do think that 2 months may be too much time, but what I'd like to see us accomplish in those 2 weeks is to bring community input, partners to the table. I really think that there's been, in the midst of all of these conversations, some things that have transpired that where people are looking at ways to collaborate now more than ever, and maybe having NICJR, even if it is via Zoom or something, to now that's a workshop, now that also provides them the opportunity to talk about the scope of what we want to accomplish here, but also hearing community voices and partners who are already in the community doing this work and continuing to do this work, paid or not paid. So we can then make a decision that is, I think it's a little bit more palatable, not only for us, but also for our community partners. I don't know if I could get a second on that, but that's what I'm putting out.
So motion to postpone for 2 weeks? Okay, it's been made and seconded.
It's a priority motion, so you can debate the
Okay.
postponement.
All right, now we're talking just about the motion, which is a priority motion to postpone for 2 weeks. Comments, Councilmember Singh, on that postponement for 2 weeks?
I thought you had more to that.
So let me, Director Middlebrook, is it realistic that we could get NICJR to participate in a meeting, even if it is via Zoom or something, where, that includes community and community partners to talk about their scope and the vision?
Within a week?
Within 2 weeks.
Well, if
before-
it's on the agenda in 2 weeks, that means that it would need to happen before, that would mean it would need to happen next week. So we would need to have the meeting within a week. Without fully knowing their schedule or capacity, I cannot say whether or not it's in their capacity to do that. I can check. And if it's not, then I think council will come back and make whatever decision council makes. But we can try our best to make it happen, but I can't say today on Tuesday night that they have the capacity to do that within the next 7 days
Yeah,
or
but
10 days. I don't
think
know.
they could have up to 2 weeks. I mean, they could have the meeting even Monday night before the next council meeting.
So within the next 7 to 10 days, I can definitely work with them to try to make that happen, but I can't commit their schedules. So I can say we will make every effort. We will make every effort to try to make them available to participate in that meeting.
If that is the case and we don't think that it's possible, then I can amend that to 30 days. I just did not want to keep pushing it too far out. But if you all feel like, if the administration feels like 2 weeks is not doable, then we can go with 30 days to be on the safe side.
Well, why don't we try 2? And if it needs to be postponed, it can be postponed again, I guess.
Okay.
It's just life-saving things that aren't happening.
Questions? Are we under contract with them right now?
Yes, but not for this work.
Okay. We're going to be, I don't know how much we're giving them right now. I think it was $300,000 for the year, and we can't get them on the phone within a week?
No, we didn't say that. We just didn't schedule it right here in the middle. I'm confident that they're, happy to try to make a meeting. We just can't confirm that right now. But I think it's highly likely they can convene a meeting and invite other people to do it. Yeah.
I'd be really alarmed if we're giving them that much money and they can't get back to us that quickly.
Yeah. Well, they've been very responsive so far, including coming to meet with members of the public, members of our partners who are part of this committee. They met with me just 2 weeks ago and here in Knoxville, and they did a bunch of trainings. They were here for 2 days. So I have no reason to believe that they can't make that happen. Councilmember McKenzie, any further comments? So the motion on the floor is to postpone for 2 weeks. Councilmember Parker, questions or comments on the motion to postpone for 2 weeks?
I do worry about that, the tight timeline. 2 weeks from now, we have an all-day legislative budget hearing that ends at, I guess, 4 for a public hearing, and then we'll reconvene for our evening city council meeting, and we see how much discussion this has generated tonight. We're hoping to bring more community into this discussion. So I can't imagine 2 weeks from now, this will be a short discussion on our agenda. So that's one concern with 2 weeks from now. The other issue is just all that we have coming up. The mayor mentioned the violence interruption working group. I can't remember what it's called.
Leadership team.
Leadership team, but I think it's meeting this Friday, right? Thursday. And those meetings are at 1:30, which is extremely difficult for most of the public. And so that's why I said the conversations that are happening at those 1:30 in the afternoon meetings could be brought into a workshop space where the public would have more access to that information. I'm not sure what is intended with a Zoom, if it's going to be also scheduled at 1:30 in the afternoon when only a few people can participate. But what I envisioned was that it would be a workshop, so anyone in the community interested, engaged in, impacted by this issue could come and participate. So that's why I'm a little concerned with the 2-week timeline, those reasons that I raised, but I'm in support of a postponement, and if that's the longest postponement we can get, then I'll support it.
Okay, the motion on the floor is to postpone for 2 weeks. Councilmember McKenzie, did you want to add
And
something?
point of clarification, that it would be an afternoon meeting to allow community members to have the opportunity to be there. I don't disagree that during the day meetings hinders participation. Absolutely, it does. So, again, I think that we can work around that. That would be better for them since they're on a 3-hour time difference from us. Thank you.
Seeing no further questions, all those in favor of the motion to postpone for 2 weeks, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Let's take a 10-minute break. Let's reconvene at 9:05. What? Okay, council, it's 9:07. Let's end the recess and reconvene the meeting, please.
You're not going
Bless
to
you.
make it.
Bless you. Okay. All right, we have a quorum. Mr. Johnson, please go ahead and read the next agenda item.
11M is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Southern Constructors Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $377,239 to provide construction services to repair the 17th Street Bridge.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11N is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Gresham Smith Incorporated to provide professional engineering design services for the Boyd's Bridge Pike Bridge Repair Project in an amount not to exceed $105,000.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11O is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with Rogers Group Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $4,994,000 for the 2025 resurfacing Phase 2 project.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11P is a resolution authorizing the mayor to amend an agreement with the State of Tennessee Department of Transportation for traffic signal improvements in the University of Tennessee area to extend the date of completion and reflect an increase in available federal funding.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11Q is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an easement agreement to allow proposed features of the development at 400 State Street to encroach into the public rights-of-way for State Street, 6th District.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11R is a resolution expressing appreciation to the United Way of Greater Knoxville and generous contributors in our community for the donation of $570,000 to be used for the affordable rental development program, and authorizing the mayor to execute all documents necessary to accept said donation.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council, I just want to share a few comments because this is a really big deal. You'll be deciding on 3 public-private partnership projects over the next 8 resolutions. And this is all aimed at increasing Knoxville's supply of affordable housing. And this first item is part of what makes it possible. This item expresses appreciation to the United Way of Greater Knoxville and to the generous philanthropic donors for empowering the city to do more and help more people. For the first time, construction of affordable housing through the city's Affordable Rental Development Fund is relying on private gifts. In the past, it's always just been city dollars only. So our track record of success has helped us attract private donations to this fund. So I want to thank the donors, Phil Lawson and the Lawson Family Foundation, the Haslam family, Clayton Homes, and Randy Boyd for their donations, and to the United Way for accepting those donations. And it's been really helpful. Yes, that's worth clapping. Our Chief of Urban Design Development, R.J. Justice, and Director of Housing and Neighborhood Development, Kevin Dubose, will be prepared to answer any questions over the various proposals coming up. But I just want to be clear that because of the generous and caring people who have donated new additional money, the city and its development partners can build more affordable homes. I also want to take note that our missing middle zoning changes are making a difference too. Neighborhood-scale projects like Edgewood Apartments and Parkview Apartments would not have been possible had we not adopted a more flexible zoning rule. So that's all. That's part of but a preface for all the things coming up. Thank you for letting me share that context and message. And note of gratitude. Seeing no further lights on, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11S is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to award an amount not to exceed $210,000 from the Affordable Rental Development Fund to Parkview Apartments, LLC for the development of 10 affordable multifamily housing units to be located at 2226 Parkview Avenue, as more specifically described herein.
Move to approve.
Motion made to approve and seconded. We do have one person signed up to speak on this item, Ellen Zaviska. Please come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, and you'll have up to 5 minutes. You'll have to press the button to turn the red light on.
It may have died.
I'm so sorry. Apparently, we're having some power issues. Maybe you can borrow the one from Mr. Claybo. Okay.
You can always
There.
count on engineering to help out.
That's right. They solve all the problems.
Ellen Zaviska, 3118 Fairview. I will speak very briefly. I'm here tonight on behalf of Yes Knoxville. We are very happy to be supportive of this project and the following project, including the Edgewood Apartments. These are terrific examples of what can be done under the Missing Middle guidelines and with support from Philanthropy City Funding and the pilot. These developments will add quality density, increase housing diversity, and create affordable housing in established neighborhoods. We are grateful for this investment, and we hope you will all vote yes. And that is it. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember McKenzie?
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to say that I'm really excited about this project. I actually grew up on Parkview. That was the first place that we lived when my family moved here to Knoxville. So really excited about this project. Thank you.
Great. Seeing no further lights on, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11T is a resolution authorizing the Industrial Development Board of the City of Knoxville to negotiate and accept from Parkview Apartments LLC, a subsidiary of Southeast Capital LLC, payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to real property located at 2226 Parkview Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, and having a parcel ID of 082OM013, and finding that such payments are deemed to be in the furtherance of the public purposes of the board as defined in Tennessee Code annotated section 7-53-305.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11U is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to award an amount not to exceed $360,000 from the Affordable Rental Development Fund to Edgewood Apartments LLC for the development of 15 affordable multifamily housing units to be located at 2501 Edgewood Avenue, as more specifically described herein.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion, Councilmember Ryder? Oh, wait, we have one person signed up to speak in favor, Joel Thomas. Is Mr. Thomas present? Okay, that concludes people who wanted to speak on this item. Councilmember Ryder?
I just want to say I'm excited about seeing something finally happen on this parcel. This used to be a car wash, and it was abandoned for a long time, and some really unfortunate things happened there, and it's been vacant for a while, so excited to see this be infilled with a really positive project. Looking forward to seeing it.
Okay, Councilmember Thomas.
Sounds like a really good use of formerly blighted property. Thanks.
Okay, seeing no further mics, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11V is a resolution authorizing the Industrial Development Board of the City of Knoxville to negotiate and accept from Edgewood Apartments LLC, a subsidiary of Southeast Capital LLC, payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to real property located at 2501 Edgewood Avenue, Knoxville, Tennessee, and having a parcel ID of 070IJ001, and finding that such payments are deemed to be in the furtherance of the public purposes of the board as defined in Tennessee Code annotated section 7-53-305.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11W is a resolution authorizing the end amendment to the 2022 Home ARP Allocation Plan for Housing and Neighborhood Development to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, and authorizing the mayor to execute any associated documents and certifications.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11X is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to award an amount not to exceed $1 million from the Home American Rescue Plan Program to Lumen Flats LLC, Knoxville LLC, for the development of 18 affordable housing units to be located at 1585 Coleman Road, contingent upon approval of the 2022 Home ARP Allocation Plan amendment by both the City Council and HUD.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please. Oh, sorry, Councilmember Roberto, sorry.
Thank you, Mayor. I just very quickly wanted to say that I really am excited about this particular program. We've got 18 supportive affordable housing units for youth aging out of foster care, which I think is amazing that we're doing this. As I understand it, it's the first time we've created a facility to do this and have a supportive environment. So I think it's really great that we're doing this. I'm looking forward to approving it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or comments? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11Y is a resolution authorizing the Industrial Development Board of the City of Knoxville to negotiate and accept from Elmington Capital Group or an affiliate thereof payments in lieu of ad valorem taxes with respect to real property located at 1585 Coleman Road, Knoxville, Tennessee, and having a parcel ID of 107GE010, and finding that such payments are deemed to be in the furtherance of the public purposes of the board as defined in Tennessee Code annotated section 7-53-305.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11Z is a resolution authorizing the city to enter into an amendment to an agreement accepting continuum of care planning grant funds from the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, allowing HUD to divert grant funds directly to the Knox County Office of Housing Stability as a continuum of care replacement recipient. No, Z isn't zebra.
Okay, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay, any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 12AA is a resolution amending R-326-2024, which authorized the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to award a total amount not to exceed of $1,768,642 in youth homelessness demonstration program grant funds to 6 entities to support 8 projects guided by the Coordinated Community Plan and ongoing collaboration with the Youth Action Board in order to modify allocations to 4 of the entities, including the University of Tennessee, the Knoxville-Knox County Community Action Committee, and the Office of Housing Stability.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council, last August, just a little context here, we're doing so many positive things in the prevention and of homelessness, and this is just one of them. But as a reminder, you all approved the acceptance of a $1.77 million grant from HUD last August, and that was for a youth homelessness demonstration program. And this is something we'd applied for several years and took some time to get. And just want to say this is a huge win for our community. And the Continuum of Care staff and partners collaborated with the Youth Action Board on a coordinated plan, and council approved the sub-grant awards in November to support 8 community projects. And tonight's resolution adjusts the allocation of some of those funds. So, for example, CAC is getting more funding for rapid rehousing services, which is, a vital service they try to connect people to. And Director DeBose is here, and he can answer any questions on the specifics. But the bottom line is this is good news, and our service providers will be well-equipped with resources to help rehouse and support our young people who are struggling. Council Member Thomas?
Yes, absolutely. And this whole litany of agenda items that we just heard that had to do with affordable housing, in particular, different needs that they're addressing, is really admirable. And I salute you, Mr. DeBoe, for being part of this, and your team and the others that worked for you. This is really impressive. Thank you.
Councilmember McKenzie?
Thank you, Mayor. I also echo what Councilmember Thomas said. This is just, it really touches my heart to see the investment that we're making. Had the opportunity to meet some of the youth who are experiencing homelessness, who graduated from the SEED program recently, and just the amount of resiliency in those young people and the support that they had, where people who are working with them were there to celebrate them. And so just want to say great job, and I'm just really proud of us for these investments. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Resolution 11AB is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute an agreement with the Lee Company for the supply and installation of 2 HVAC units, as well as the removal and disposal of the existing units at Cal Johnson Recreation Center located at 507 South Hall of Fame Drive for an amount not to exceed $58,615.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
11AC is a resolution authorizing the mayor to execute any and all documents necessary to apply for the Organic Management Grant, and if awarded, accept a grant in the amount of $25,000 from the Tennessee Department of Environment and Conservation to further grow the Knoxville Compost Project by continuing to divert municipal food waste from the landfill to reduce greenhouse gases and to produce compost to grow food in urban farms, community gardens, and residential backyards.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Councilmember Thomas.
Yes, is there someone here who could speak to that?
There sure is. Director of Public Service, Rachel Butzler, if you would come to the podium, please.
She does.
Hi, I'm Rachel Butzler. I'm the Director of Public Service.
Yes, just educate me some. If you would, just kind of give me an overview of what's involved here.
So a few years ago, when Patience Melnick was in Waste and Resources, she got a grant through USDA to do a pilot project for composting in the city of Knoxville. So that included workshops with the public where they gave out free composting bins afterwards. And then they also established 4 drop-off locations around the city where people could drop their food waste. And then that food waste is taken to 3 partnering farms, and it's turned into composted material, which what they then use on the farms. And the vegetables and stuff that they are producing at the farms are then distributed. So I think it's the CAC farm, what is it? Beardsley, yes.
Yeah.
Battlefield, and they have one other one. So this program is just looking to expand on the momentum from that program. So it would continue the workshops for the public, and we're looking for more partner organizations to host this public drop-off sites to collect more food waste.
Oh, excellent. And as an aside, at one time there was a group, it may have been IAMS, that was distributing compost bins for neighbors and neighborhoods. Is that part of what you do, or do you know of anybody that's doing that?
I don't know about distributing compost bins. Sometimes the county has done water barrels and compost bins, and I haven't seen anything recently about that. But we are looking for more community partners to host the drop-off, and we have expressed interest to work with IAMS, so hopefully they will be one of our partners again in the future. It's not confirmed, but we are always looking for people who want to engage with us and also are great engagers in the community.
Yeah. Okay, great. That's a great summary. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions or discussion? Councilmember Thomas,
No.
Okay. Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Ordinance 12AE is an ordinance making and fixing the annual appropriations for the several departments, agencies, and funds of the City of Knoxville for the fiscal period beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30, 2026, and providing for the authority to reappropriate non-project related encumbrances at the end of fiscal year 2024-2025 into fiscal year 2025-2026.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Council members, first of all, thank you for attending the State of the City. As you heard at that address, my proposed budget prioritizes public safety, affordable housing, and high-quality city services. We're strategically investing in key projects, tackling some long-standing deferred maintenance, and being incredibly sound fiscal stewards because we're saving $30 million with an early paydown of convention center debt. So thank you for attending the State of the City. That kicks off sort of the budget proposal. As you know, the city charter requires your vote on first reading, but then you'll have a month to talk with constituents, me, my directors, and of course you have an all-day budget hearing scheduled on May 13th, and then the final vote scheduled for May 27th. Councilmember Fugit.
Thank you, Mayor. I was just going to say, after this passes, I will make a motion to postpone second reading till May 27th, because by ordinance, I mean, it's supposed to come up in 2 weeks. So I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we move it to May 27th. I think I'm out of order. I'm just telling you that's what I'm going to do, folks. So to
The law director's nodding.
to honor the 1 month
Yes.
commitment that we
Okay.
made before.
I didn't know she was prepared to do that. I was asking him to do that.
Okay. So that can happen
Afterward.
after it's, okay.
I'm just telling you,
Okay.
I'm ready.
Okay. Thank you. Anything further? Okay, Councilmember Parker?
Thank you, Mayor. I continue to feel that we need amendments to our budget process. Even the postponement of the second reading, to me, should be a requirement. Not the postponement, but the time between the first reading and the second reading should be a requirement. It should be a charter change that I would hope that this city council would support, or the next city council, I guess. And there are other changes that I've proposed and continue to support, which is if we have a requirement in the charter to pass the budget on first reading, then we should be required for the budget to go through 3 readings rather than the 2. What I've noticed is that once we pass it on first reading, the message sent to the public is that there's full support from council of the mayor's budget, and there's only one vote that remains before passing it, and it can deter folks from getting involved in the budgeting process, whereas this should be the beginning of a public process when it comes to the budget. Our public hearings on the budget, which of course was not presented until last week to the public, are an important part of the process, and the message should not be sent to the public that this is too late to engage, because our own charter says that this is the time, once the budget is presented, to hold public hearings. And so I do plan to try to engage with the public more this year. I'm holding a Facebook Live next week on May 8th to go through the budget with community members, whoever shows up for that or tunes in later, and try to help folks get ready for that May 13th legislative budget hearing. I'm worried we won't have good turnout since the public hearing is scheduled for 4 p.m. But in case people want to engage in this process, they have every right to do so. And I plan to hold that session on May 8th at 6:30 on my Facebook page. But I do have some initial thoughts around the budget that I wanted to share. I was disappointed to not see funding for the legal aid eviction prevention program at the level that the public has been informed is needed, at least 300,000. I did see 50,000 under community agency grants for legal aid. I noticed that the cable TV taxes are less in this year's budget. Budgeted at $1 million, which is 400,000 less than last budget. And this is a major concern for Knoxville Community Media in terms of future funding for the TV program, for the media entity that not only gives the public access to our government meetings, but other community building resources. This is something I would like to, hear discussed during this budget process, how the city plans to respond to that shortfall. I was really concerned to see a jump in the public safety share of the general fund. It went from 40% of the general fund to 45% in this proposed budget. And we're hearing about so many cuts in our social safety net programs. I'm concerned we're not budgeting extra from our general fund to address these shortfalls. I'm concerned about prioritizing $25 million towards debt payoff and paying off convention debt early when we do expect, additional shortfalls from federal cuts to housing and social services. And we don't know how the tariffs will impact our city yet. And I know my time's up, but those are just some of my thoughts that I wanted to share on the budget.
Okay, any further question or discussion? Councilmember Roberto.
Thank you, Mayor. I was excited to see there's funding for Vision Zero in here. I was glad to see traffic calming funded. Especially excited to see continued commitment for affordable housing, commitment to operationalize the warming centers. I thought that was good to see. I'm also really looking forward to learning more about the increase for the firefighters. I was disappointed that there's no money for new sidewalks, but that I understand where that's coming from. But I am excited about a lot of this and learning more at the legislative budget hearings. Thank you, Mayor.
Councilmember Thomas?
Yes, I had a question for the mayor or staff about traffic calming and the actually turned out to be quite successful speed bump programs that we have. And right now I hear neighborhoods that are trying to get in line for the speed bumps, but apparently the program was so successful we ran out of money. And is there money budgeted for that in this year? Because I know 2 or 3 neighborhoods that are getting geared up for it.
I believe that there is some budgeted for some of the pending projects that were already have gone through the process. Mr. Clabo, could you clarify?
That's correct. So we did suspend the program. We had a backlog of neighborhoods in that. We're cycling through those, and those typically are included in our resurfacing program. So we'll finish up the backlog of neighborhoods in next year's paving. But we are looking at new guidelines for the program, the brand-new program. We expect there was proposed $500,000 in this year's budget, and a large majority of that will be used to fund the new program, probably around $400,000 of that. So we probably have to use about $100,000 to finish the backlog.
Sure. Just so that people know what to expect, is the, I guess the application process, is it closed at the moment, or can people start signing up and try to get in the pipeline?
It's still closed at the moment. We are getting close to having new guidelines in place, so we'll be getting word out about those with neighborhoods and having some meetings to talk about what the new process is. But that's coming very soon.
Right. I'll check back with you after a period of time to kind of see where we are, and that way I'll know what to tell my constituents.
Okay.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Parker, your light's on?
Yeah, I just wanted to add on to that. that helping the public get prepared for our legislative budget hearings is also to get prepared for any proposed budget amendments. Our charter states that City Council cannot bring amendments to the budget forward until after those public hearings take place. One area that I see where we could easily make amendments to the budget is by moving money from that unassigned fund balance to some of these community agencies, groups who need that additional funding for that social safety net. So like a legal aid and other groups, seems like a really easy budget amendment that we could make. One request I would have from the administration is an update on projections for our unassigned fund balance for the end of the year. That includes that March budget amendment. According to my, just quick calculations, I believe we're projected to still have around 17 million or so in unassigned fund balance. But I could be wrong on that, so it would be helpful to get that information from finance. And then also I had one other question that I've kind of lost. I might have to come back to it, but I believe our discussion is over.
I'm sure Mr. Evans will be happy to provide that fund balance information to council later this week by email. Unless he has it right there on the top of his head,
Yes, ma'am, I got it right now. Boyce Evans, CFO for the city. It really hadn't changed what we're looking at from what we said at the budget retreat. We're looking around, I think it was like 17.8 million to be remaining at the end of the current FY. So.
Perfect. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Seeing no further questions or comments, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries 7-1. Next item, please.
No, I have to make the motion to.
Oh, right, sorry. My fault.
I even
Thank you
gave
for remembering.
I even gave everybody warning.
Okay,
So,
sorry.
I make a motion that we postpone the second reading of the budget until our May 27th meeting.
Okay, motion's been made to hear the budget on May 27th. All those, any further questions or discussions? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries.
Ordinance 12AF is an ordinance to levy a tax on all taxable properties, real, personal, and mixed, within the corporate limits of the city of Knoxville to provide sufficient revenues to fund the general fund and debt service fund operations and debt service obligations of the city of Knoxville for the fiscal period beginning July 1, 2025 and ending June 30, 2026.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. The law director advised that we would also need a motion to consider this on May 27th.
I move that we consider the ordinance on taxable properties to be postponed until May 27th as well.
Okay. Motion to have second reading on item AF on May 27th has been made and seconded. Any questions or discussion on this motion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? The motion carries.
Ordinance 12AG is an ordinance of the Council of the City of Knoxville to amend Chapter 2, Article 3, Division 2, Sections 2-449, 2-450, 2-458, and 2-459 of the Knoxville City Code to adjust the classification and compensation plans.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Councilmember Fugit, we need to have another motion.
Okay, I was
Please.
going to let Councilwoman Roberta, do you want this one? No.
Someone.
You're on a roll.
Okay, I make a motion to postpone the second reading of item AG, the ordinances, to May 27th.
Motion to postpone second reading until May 27th has been made and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries.
Ordinance 12H is an ordinance to close unimproved Cafago Avenue, I don't know, within the city block 26876, running from Hackman Street to its dead end at Maynard Glen Fields Park, and authorizing the mayor to execute quitclaim deeds to the adjacent property owners, First District.
Motion made to approve and seconded. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor, please say aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We have one person signed up to speak at public forum. Ms. Shipe, if you'd come to the podium, you have up to 5 minutes to address council.
Vivian Scheit, 503 Longview, apartment F, Knoxville, 37919. Council, you should have received a brown envelope. Each of you should have one of those. It includes the mayor. Good evening, City Council. As you do your first reading of the proposed budget, there is an action item that requires your attention. While $8 million has been proposed to help with warming centers and beds for the unhoused, there is a demographic that requires attention, and you only have 4 years and 8 months to prepare for the tsunami that is coming. In this area, 1 out of every 4 citizens in Knoxville will be over the age of 65 by 2030. It is the fastest growing population segment in Knoxville. As a city, we are not ready on every level. Currently, that number is around 50,000 citizens, and that number is growing daily. There is not enough housing in place, not enough caregivers, community centers. We are moving too slowly. An area that needs immediate consideration in this budget and all future budgets is more dollars allotted for senior housing, whether it's building from the ground up or repurposing some of the hundreds of empty buildings we own into group housing with on-site staff. More dollars should be put into programs such as mobile meals and senior companion programs, including funds for paid workers to do well visits. More dollars need to be spent in food desert areas. Capital investments in the poorest areas must begin now. We need to partner with area colleges and create pathways with financial assistance for social workers, CNAs, and nurses. We need to create an office on senior stabilization. The average monthly cost in a nursing home for a semi-private room is over $7,000 per month. Assisted living starts around $4,000 per month. Many who live alone will have life and health challenges that must be planned for now, not in next year's budget or the next administration. We need to think about residential home supplementation as a possibility. It is our job to care for our elderly. We must begin to plan for this now, or the cost of the shelter beds for the unhoused proposal will not be nearly enough. There are models available of U.S. cities that have strong senior care programs. San Francisco, Punta Gorda, Florida, and Provo, Utah. Other countries are leading the way in care. Sweden, Norway, Switzerland, and Germany top the list. We do not have time to rest on our laurels. There is work to be done and little time to do it. Your mission, should you decide to accept it, is to act now and get ahead of the tsunami that is heading towards Knoxville, Tennessee. If not, this situation will self-destruct in 4 years and 8 months.
Okay, council, that concludes people signed up to speak at public forum. Without objection, this meeting is adjourned.